Well, welcome along if you are just joining us on the video stream as we bring radio, TV, local FM and the PA system here at Dubai Autodrome together, and welcome the large and enthusiastic global sports car audience to our final 180 minutes of prototype action in this very successful already event that is debuting here at the Dubai Autodrome. What a great circuit to have our first of the 24-hour Proto Series events on. Effectively a pilot event, but clearly turning the heads of a number of teams globally. Graham Goodwin, the editor of dailysportscar.com, is on my right. I'm John Hindhaugh. In the pit lane is Nick Damon. Nick, good afternoon to you, and hopefully you are enjoying a little bit of shade now in the majority of the pit lane.
Yeah, it's rather pleasant, actually. It's now got a nice warm ambience, but as you say, a little bit of shade. It's very pleasant. In fact, it's a very relaxed atmosphere. We've had a couple of hours of private tests, so the track's going to be slightly different from when the cars were last on, because they've got about 60 cars running down there with various sorts of tarmac for 2 hours. Cars got away. It was very straightforward. As you said, no one was left behind, so we all set up, I think, for a fantastic end of a triumphant of 3-hour races.
Oh, triumvirate, very good. Nick does like any things with tries in. He's got a couple of triumphs, and he's a trident as well. He does like a trident as well, because he's a bit of a Maserati man.
He is indeed, isn't he? It is indeed, by the way, 13 cars that will make the grid for this. The other 2 missing cars are going through the 4 that are on the entry that will not be on. The 45 car is perfectly healthy, the Avalon Formula Wolf, but has been sold to a customer that wants to have his own go in that one, so that car will not be taking the grid. The number 50 Simpson Motorsport car, we saw that car stop at the latter part of the race, John, with Philip Hazelbrook at the wheel. That car's not made it to the grid for the start of the race, at least. HHC Racing, we said we thought that it's possible that car might not make the grid. It has not started, and the final one is another car that didn't make the start for race 2. It's the number 82 Craft Racing Norma that was in trouble yesterday. So 2 of the CNs and 2 of the Ginettas not making it here, but it's 13 for this final 3 hours.
In 3 different classes, the CN cars, either 520 or 570 kilos, as the field blazes through at the end of its first formation lap. Then we've got the P3s. Now they have a different sound, 1600s and 2 litres for the CN cars. The Nissan V8, the venerable, I think we should say now, Nissan
different V8. Different Nissan V8 from the P2 cars.
It's a V8 though that has seen service before.
In all sorts of things, but it's a production-based V8 engine. The way that the LMP3 formula works is there are various chassis available. The 2 cars here are both Ligier chassis, but it's a standard drivetrain, so it's a standard Nissan engine extract gearbox, all of which are built and prepared by Orica. That's their part in the LMP3 deal. So whether or not you see a Ginetta, an Adess, a RV Riley, a Norma or a Ligier, the engine and gearbox, all of them are identical.
And then the LS3, well, now that is an engine that has some racing provenance. The big 6.2 litre American V8 that has proved pretty much bulletproof. I've cursed it now, of course, down through the years with Formula Le Mans and the Prototype Challenge category in IMSA, which is coming to an end. Are the Ginetta G57s a natural successor to the Prototype Challenge cars if they stay with 4 classes in IMSA? I'd say absolutely yes. The only problem is a well-driven one of those would be all over, even I reckon, the new P2 cars.
Well, it's certainly a quick piece of kit, and they're developing that car as things progress. So we've seen a few niggles, but we've also seen some blinding speed. And my guess is it's turning heads, isn't it? It's a matter of. But what a couple of teams said to me, well, you know, we're new to the car. We want to own this car. We've not had sufficient time to really dial ourselves in to what's required here. My guess is by the time we get into the season proper, and we'll give you those dates for the 12-hour races to come for 2017. Once we get into that season proper, then you're going to see, I would guess, somewhat more reliability and somewhat more pace from these cars.
Well, the field are lining up, and they will take to the start in the order that they finished the last race. That means on the far side of the track from us, drivers right, it will be the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta G57. Carl Masson driving that car, and what a breath of fresh air he and James French were, straight off the plane pretty much, never sat in the car before, and an absolutely awesome couple of stints from those two guys, refugees from the IMSA series. Peter Cox will start the Cox Racing Ligier P3 car on the outside of the front row. That's driver's left, heading down the long front straight. Then JT Kapal, also from the States. His experience, Mark 1 Spec Miata. He stepped up in class, but my goodness, the young man, 16-year-old, he's got some class there. As they're coming around the final corner, it's Trullier in the graph on the outside of row 2. Perrin for Craft Racing. Then Winslow, De Rocha, Frederic De Rocha on the inside of the next row for IDEX Sport and AUH Motorsport as the revs rise, and we are racing down towards the first corner. The field spreads out. It should be the pole sitter, Carl Masson, and he has the advantage, but coming through the field, the CWS car, and also that looked like James Winslow coming through second.
He was second position into the first turn from 5th on the grid, so managed to get the power down. Looked initially as if Peter Cox had actually managed to maintain position, but the tidal wave of Chevy power behind him finally told into the braking zone for turn 2, and it is indeed a Ginetta 1-2-3 through turn 1. Carl Masson from Peter Cox is no longer in second position, because that now goes to James Winslow, and I think that was the CWS car up into third place, and that will be JT Kapal. Another breath of fresh air. That's a young man I think we're going to be talking about a lot more in the years to come, John.
And speaks very, very well indeed. 16-year-old, born in the 2000s. Isn't that scary to be talking about?
And annoying.
Drivers. It's scary, definitely. However, the least millennial that I know, not a hint of entitlement about that young man. He will go far, both for his driving talent and his attitude. And I'm certain he will be catching the eye of Jeremy Shaw and Team USA in the next couple of years, if he hasn't already made his way up through the ranks without the kind of assistant that Jeremy has been getting in the past.
So at 54, the Optimum Motorsport car, the winner from race 2, now in the hands of Carl Masson. Fresh from the Raw before the 24 hours in the Performance Tech Orica, and now it steps into the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta G57 P2, leads the race, but being hunted down now by James Winslow, UK. He's an Englishman, but now lives in Australia, does most of his racing in Asia and down under, but he is looking for a rapid way by and into the lead. So Carl Masson from James Winslow, JT Kapal, Peter Cox down into 4th place, but retains 4th place in the Cox Racing Ligier. Then it's the Mackay pedalled Century Motorsport Ginetta.
Mackay who started that. Then
the Graf P3 car. Then it is Jordan Sanders in the Graf G57. Before we get into, it's Charlie Robertson moving up from the back of the grid in the ATEC DXB 56 Ginetta. Then we get to the first of the CN cars. That is De Rocha in the IDEX Sport Ligier.
So, live from trackside, we are underway for the third of 3 3-hour encounters for these prototypes, and already a full course code 60 has been called. Cars are coming out of the long 180-degree hairpin onto the back straight. Code 60 is out, and a bit of passing going on there for a moment. We had 3 wide go past the hill cutout, but everybody has seen it now, and the code 60 is for an incident on the outside, I believe, of turn 14. That is certainly where the Ford F-150.
There's two cars. There's 2 cars in the barrel. The pit in. The 2 radicals, and it's another car.
It's the and
it's the 85. It's the 85.
The 85, right at the beginning of the pit lane, and the flatbed is already there. And
2 cars, John, that ran faultlessly in the last race.
What's happened there?
It's very odd. I wonder.
They've had it coming together side by side, and it's broken the steering of the one on the outside, and it's and it's tracked across. I can't imagine they would have been coming into the pits at this time.
It's very odd. But the 85 car, of course, that led overall.
That's broken steering on
Indeed.
the 85 car. So they've come side by side. They run so much camber on these cars, although even though that they are closed wheel cars, effectively, they are... the bottom of the wheels are sticking proud, and if they're locked together you can easily break a steering arm. Once that happens, the one on the outside will tend to just push across.
Yep.
And I think that's what's happened there. The 80 might have got away with that if he can get disentangled.
Yeah, the slight problem is they can't push the car back. Now, is that because they're trying not to damage the Norma any further?
Well, he's about to go a lap down. And, in fact, have the cars come through?
No, they've not, because there's a Ginetta.
There's a very slow Ginetta at the back end
there?
Of the field as well, and that's just gone by. That's the 52 car. So is that late out?
No, here's the 54. The 54 comes past us now. Now, my guess is that one or other of these cars has not responded as quickly as others to the code 60.
Correct.
So that's what that is. So they have gone a lap down.
Yeah. The 85.
I fear for both of those cars, it's going to be rather worse than that. So if you're watching in sound and vision, you'll be able to see exactly what we can, which is a sorry tale of two CN cars locked together and pit in, blocking the pit entrance. Way too early, of course, for anybody to even make a tactical stop, and that makes little difference at this stage.
Yeah, well, you would have thought everybody would have started with full tanks, wouldn't you? So no point in even going in for half a tank now. There's just no point in attempting it. The toast drop is out for the 85. I've got a feeling, Graham, that the 80 car, the red and white, that's a Radical, isn't it?
It is a Radical.
It is. I think that car's all right.
Well, I'm concerned as to why they can't push it back, or why they're not going to push it back, and whether or not we've got damage on the left front of the Radical.
Well, in that case, then, is it the Radical, the number 80 car, that's got the broken steering, and that's just quite a lot of lock on the 85?
We'll see.
That wheel looks to have turned there when the driver was moving the wheel. Well, I get the advantage of looking out through the binoculars. They have untangled them.
They have. Now, let's wait and see what can happen with the Radical now.
Does it fire up and get going?
That's got some damage to the side pocket of the Norma.
No, it's moving.
The Radical is moving.
The Radical is moving, but hasn't got enough lock to clear the back of the Norma.
He's gesturing to him. No, don't. Do you want to go into the pits? Do you want to go back around? What do you want to do?
He's saying
back?
Push that car forward and I can get round him, is what he's saying.
He wants to go into the pits, doesn't he? Well, it's a Radical solution.
Or I could push you backwards. Yes, that might do it as well, but he's going to have to take his foot off the brake. Clark of the course, or one of them, has headed round in the course car. That's not a safety car. That we're not behind safety car. We are in code 60.
Yep.
So this is all a bit unnecessary at the moment, and time ebbing away.
Now they're going to put that on a flatbed, so that is not going to be towed anywhere. That, I'm afraid, it doesn't look great at all, does it, for the 85?
Well, I'm not sure why we can't get a reverse gear in that Radical.
They're saying, I think he's actually saying, he's asking the question. I think he thinks
he's
there's
broken
a problem.
his steering.
Yes.
So they've both broken steering.
Oh dear.
Is what would be the answer to that then. And the wavy hand from
and the scratchy
our
head.
Race official basically telling the driver,
nah, mate,
in that Radical. And that is Nigel Farmer in the Radical, by the way. And it is Jean-Charles Perrin, the Canadian, in the 85 car. Both drivers are fine, by the way. They just don't want to get out their cars at the moment. I think Nigel Farmer thinks he can get that car down the pit lane.
Yeah. It is a place, of course, where we've seen big accidents before there. Was it last year's 24 Hours was a huge accident with the Ferrari off track and
a little bit further round, yes, but coming back on.
Right, we've still not.
Ooh, wobbly front wheel.
Maybe.
But that'll be that means change your steering arm. That'll take 5-10 minutes. It'll be back out again.
Yeah.
Now,
what he's missed the opportunity to do there is to get out of the car, let the tyres down on the flatbed, delay the recovery to give himself more time in the pits to recover.
Yes, very good. Now, as you can see,
he's being very sensible there, which We don't want a Coulthard moment against the pit wall, do we?
But you know the best way for him to have got in would have been to reverse it in, because the camber then helps you keep the wheel straight. But I think the caster rather, thank you, Joe, helps you keep the wheel straight. But I think that might have been frowned on.
Might well be.
I once had an issue like that with an Avenger, and my dad towed me all the way across town to Monk Wearmouth from East Harrington backwards to stop the me front wheel kicking out. Nick Manassian has arrived at the circuit.
If you're listening to us at the circuit, you do see Patrick Dempsey running around the paddock. It's not Patrick, okay? He's slightly shorter, and he's French. It's Nick Manassian. They are almost identical. That's
a fine piece of driving to get that 80 car in from Nigel Farmer, the Hong Kong-based driver. And in fact, the 85 car running under its own steam as well.
Well, so that is going straight to the paddock. Now there is an advantage here for this team.
Jean-Charles Parra.
I'm just going to see whether or not I correct myself before I start to say, but there was a car in the pack that's not started this race. It's an identical car. If it's bodywork damage,
yeah. That's a fair point, well made.
It's possible they could do a bit of a swapsy. What I don't know is anything about the ownership of both cars, and that might not be possible. But we'll see.
Right, so we basically froze the race halfway around lap number 2.
I should also say, by the way, there is an investigation underway for false start for 2 cars. It's the other Radical and the 56 Ginetta,
which is Tariq El Gamal. And the 50 Ginetta was
Charlie Robertson
by Charlie Robertson. And we're back under green, and already there's a battle as the CWS car tries to get the jump.
No, it's the other way round.
Yes, you are right. Peter Cox was hot off the press there.
Wily old fox that he is.
Wily old Cox. And through he goes, back into 3rd position. He won't hold it for very long, or will he?
Just
as JT Kapal tries to go around the outside of turn 1. Now, Kapal just needs to be sensible here and stay with him through, first of all, learning the lines through 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 from Peter Cox is probably not the worst thing he can do for his own experience.
No, he's got pressure from behind as well from, it's Duncan Mackay, yes?
51 is that? Daniel
Mackay, do apologise to the Mackay family.
But this is where he should be able to close up coming out of 9. So turn 9, the long left-handed hairpin banked. But I think that Peter Cox has done enough there to get himself pulled away. And down the back straight, Peter Cox in that number 48 Cox Racing Ligier.
Well, that's the damage to the Radical with the front bodywork taken off. So it's the splitter. There is a Radical, by the way, under a cover behind the pits.
A couple of cars who've come here who haven't raced.
Yep.
Now that is going to be, though, a steering arm. Let's have a look at the bottom.
It does seem to be a rather odd angle, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain there'll be a bent or a broken steering arm.
Either that or our cameraman isn't standing up straight. I know that's not the case. Through to complete the lap, though, come the leading cars.
I'm surprised Nick hasn't been in there pointing at that steering arm there.
It's a 211.794, 209.565, James Winslow. So there was advantage taken at the start of that Code 60. Gap had gone out to 6 seconds, comes back to 4 seconds now with James Winslow cracking on. Fastest lap of the race, though, goes at the moment Peter Cox with a 1:59, but that will be because Peter was likely the first to cross the line when it went back green. But he's outpacing at the moment, by the way. The Ginetta's behind him.
Yeah, he's the first. Exactly right.
They therefore would have also been at full green for the lap.
First to see a sub 2-minute lap. That just depends where it goes green, of course, because it's not necessarily the leaders who see the end of the lap first, because you can go back to green racing anywhere when you've got the Code 60 regulations. Jay Mooney Racing, hello guys. hopefully see you back in the Hankook 24-hour series soon. Every lunch break should include live prototype endurance racing.
We'll get that sorted for you.
I'm going to stand for election on that. That's my ticket. Every lunch break will.
Not the most barking mad thing to get something elected this year.
Oh, dear me. So, Kyle Masson leads by just on 4 seconds. James Winslow in second, 54 from 52, the two Ginettas from Optima and Simpson. The first of the P3s is the Cox Racing Ligier with Peter Cox on board. He's about 10 seconds, 11 seconds further back, but going great guns at the moment. JT Kapal for CWS Ginetta in third position, and then it's Daniel Mackay for Century Motorsport, Eric Trillier for Graf, the second of the P3 cars, and there's the big rumble as the leaders go through. Still 4 seconds between them, and Winslow now the fastest man on the track with a 55.7 with a full load of fuel. That is very good.
Through comes Peter Cox, 157.1 for Peter Cox in the leading LMP3 car, the 48 Cox Racing Ligier, and he's taken some further advantage out of the dueling Ginettas behind. GT Kapal, though, still fending off Daniel Mackay. They're, what, a tenth of a second apart as they cross the line. So through turn one, the position changes. 51 now ahead of 55 as the youngster cedes that position. So JT Kapal down to 5th position, 4th in the Ginetta class.
Let's go down to Nick Damon, who's with the Norma, and give us a little bit of an update there.
Not just with the Norma, I'm with Nigel Farmer. Nigel, very short race. What happened?
Racing incident, maybe?
That sounds like it might be my fault.
No. I think a racing incident. I mean, we were 4 cars together. I'd taken the outside line on the parabolica, and then we were all piling into the second to last. And I mean, it happens. I really think a racing incident, honestly. That's the start of a race. So
I'm not a steward, so I'll let you off on that one.
Bad things happen to good people.
Looks like it might be a broken steering arm.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a fairly decent knock. We kind of knocked each other twice, so yeah, I think it's one corner. It's not too serious, but it finishes the race, I think.
Okay, not worth repairing in the 245.
No, not worth. No. We concentrate on the 24, I think.
That's quite good, as you get 3 races. One goes wrong, but you got another 24-hour race to go.
Exactly. I'm fairly exhausted. 3, so or 2 and a bit, so not a bad thing to now have a rest, but.
Have half a day off.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel.
Nigel Farmer with Nick Damon down in the pit lane.
One of a number of drivers, of course, in these 3-3-hour races that will also be taking part in the Dubai 24 Hours. Back to racing, and it's 2 laps in the low 55s, the top 2 cars. The gap comes down by just a tenth of a second. Carl Masson still fending off James Winslow, 3.966 seconds the gap now, but these two pulling away some 15 seconds clear now of Peter Cox, who's still outpacing the 2 Ginettas behind him. Daniel Mackay now pulling away from GT Kapal, 57s for Mackay into the 59s for Masson, and he's now being closed down by Jordan Sanders in the 57 Graf Racing Ginetta, who's dealt with the team car, the Ligier P3 of Trillier.
Peter Cox then thoroughly enjoying, from his comments to us and by the trademark Cox 1000-watt smile, thoroughly enjoying this run out in the downforce car.
Not what you call a miserable sort, is he, Peter Cox?
Everybody has their moments, but you can. But I'll say one thing about Peter. I think he wears his heart on his sleeve, and I love him for that.
He's enthusiastic.
If he's not happy, he'll tell you he's not happy.
He's told me before now he's not happy.
You normally don't really need to be told that, because you can see it on his face, and he's been pretty happy behind the wheel of this car. I think he's thoroughly enjoying this. It'll be as much downforce as he's had to deal with for a wee while. And he's clearly lost none of his skill with the downforce. Tiny little bit of wheel spin from the rear Hankook tyres as he came out of 14 and up over the brow towards 15. Meantime, our leader, Kyle Masson for Optimum.
Yeah, first man into the 54s in this race, 1:54.45, extends the gap 4.7 seconds now from James Winslow, 20 seconds the lead from the overall leader to Peter Cox, with Daniel Mackay beginning to get closer to Peter Cox's lap times, but what we've heard before is the extra power of the Ginettas is not helping them maybe later in the stints with the way these cars wear their tyres. So there is a balancing act to be made here. Maybe that's part of the idea for the Century Motorsport squad, is just keeping contact with that lead trio. And as things come closer to the top of the hour, when we expect the cars to come in for their regular pit stops, that's the point at which perhaps you've got a little bit more time to push. So 54, Optimum Motorsport, winner of the second race. And let's not forget, from the back of the grid and after a drive-through penalty, Kyle Masson sharing with his Performance Tech teammate James French and with Bradley Ellis, 2007 British GT champion. That's quite some driver lineup in this car.
Kiwi Chris has tweeted at Specutainment, Wednesday night, tucked up in bed, prototype screaming around, nothing much better than more midweek racing, please. And Mike Perrin says, live motorsport on a Wednesday, a rare treat. Shea Adam, live racing to start off as well.
Yeah, it's to start off at age 32, which is brilliant for Shea. Well done, happy birthday. 32 years old, Shea Adam.
She looks younger than that.
She looks a lot younger than that.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we are going to have Shea Day Racing.
Shea Day Racing?
Yeah, every year, just for Shea, on her birthday, as she's now well into her 30s.
Well into her 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Used to be this case, by the way, back in the day, that would have said something about the young lady being on the show, but no. 32. No age nowadays.
Well, she's got cats. It'll be fine. It'll be fine for her. Eat her face. Eat her face. Kyle Masson leads by 5.1 seconds. 1:54.1 last time around, then Winslow, then Peter Cox. He's really hustling the car, is Cox. Really pushing hard. I think we may have lost a listener in Florida, a viewer in Florida for a moment.
Okay, there you go. 1:54s.
Yeah.
Let's get back to that. Before the tweetage starts.
Before the cats develop opposable thumbs to open the tins of food.
We're all doomed when that happens, mate.
Eat her face. Wednesday, just on half past midday in the UK. Don't forget midweek motorsport to come from the Autodrome here as the 57 car goes a little off track there. And that's the Graf Motorsport Ginetta G57, Jordan Sanders behind the wheel of that car. Been a little bit of changing around of drivers, don't worry about that. This is effectively a demo event, if you will. And
a demo event for the teams to show the cars to the drivers as well, which is why it's important that these guys are getting as much as they can. So it's no surprise to see that one or two of the Ginetta faces that are actually been aboard the car. So Abe Barwick has stepped out because he wants to concentrate on his Dubai 24 hours side of things. Lawrence Tomlinson has stepped out to allow the change for the driver to move over from the HHC car. So it's all common sense stuff. Good customer relations. My gosh, in sports car racing, who'd have thought it? 1:54.3 this time.
That's been there for a long time. I think there's a few other forms of the sport could learn a bit. One of the nicest places ever to be is a sports car paddock, and it is simply that good. Thoroughly enjoyable. Winslow and Masson has gone through. Where is Peter Cox? There he is. He's dropped back nearly 20 seconds, a little bit more. 23 seconds away from the lead now, but his fastest lap at 55.6 is not exactly slouch-like.
Oh, no, it's not. It's a great time for a P3 car around here, and he is at the moment dealing with the challenge from the number 51 car behind. Jordan Sanders, meanwhile, has taken position 5 from JT Kapal, and is a further 6 seconds back from the Century Motorsport 51 car. So the Ginetta's beginning to get a bit of a stranglehold on this one, with the exception of the beautifully described Wiley Hill Cox, Peter Cox, who really
that's going on the car. Somebody will have that in.
Absolutely. It sees the cuckoo in the Ginetta nest at the moment.
Yeah.
And busily kicking Ginetta eggs out.
the more we see of this and the little tweaks that happened last time around, what will happen at the end of the fuel run is that we should see the G57s and the P3s not so far away in terms of when they come into the pits.
No, indeed.
But the P3s having a shorter pit stop time. Remember, that's how the balance of performance works, which is genius. No money needing to be spent by teams, no extra testing because of raised ride height, no new wings or restrictors or mapping of the engine. It's just on the pit stops, and because the P3s and the CN cars have a shorter pit stop, the P3 should come out ahead of the G57s. The CNs will lead if they keep their pace up, because they won't stop.
They won't stop for rather longer. They don't need the fuel.
I think they can do an hour and a quarter, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. They don't need that fuel. Grip levels changing all the time around this circuit. That was the common thread from the drivers when we were down in the paddock at lunchtime. And hello to Bradley Smith, sneakily watching the Dubai 24 Proto races from work. Oh, sorry, did I say that too loud, Bradley? Keep it down.
Is that the Bradley Smith?
That is the Bradley Smith,
the
yes.
MTech who's going to be with having his car looked after by your old mates at RML in the LMP3 Cup this year.
Ah.
So he might well be, he might tell you whether or not we're going to see Phil Barker on the cans for that one.
Phil, I'm not unhappy, John.
That one.
Barker.
So
funny enough, I was round at...
actually, ELMS, sorry, they're doing ELMS.
ELMS, yes. I was round at RML for the first time in quite a while, in between Christmas and New Year.
You finally cleared out your desk?
Yes, that's right. There was a pencil I was looking for. Still there, it's fine, all's good. It'd been filed away perfectly. Had a stock number on it.
Did it?
Oh yeah, everything at RML is always ship shape. Wellingborough's finest.
It'd be great to see them back in ELMS action.
Can't wait.
Absolutely. United Autosports, they're coming for you.
The G57 P2 and the Ligier P3 competing on track courtesy of that balance of pit stop, BOP, and working very well indeed. And nice to report as well that the gathering storm clouds that there were over this Proto series seem to be clearing.
I hope so. I mean, that's certainly what I'm hearing from my sources on both sides of the debate, is that there's been some sensible discussions in the run-up to this race meeting. I have no doubt there will be an ACO observed drone over Dubai Autodrome at the moment to see how things are running. I see nothing here that should be anything other than good news for them.
It's just another string to the bow, I think.
It's an opportunity for them to grow the family, as far as I can see it. I don't see a downside.
And I really do hope somebody from IMSA is watching this, because those G57s would make a great, an absolutely great replacement for the secondary prototype class over there, if that's the way they want to go. There's strong suspicions from MarshallProtoRacer.com that it will become a 3-class championship once the current FLM09 prototype challenge class disappears.
It's a shame, because there's options, aren't there? And there's options that look ever more convincing. You're looking at P3 car now, John, as well as the Ginetta G57 P2. There's two options right there, and you know,
the G57 uses the power plant.
Correct.
That the current PCs use. It's something that's known and understood in America. Also, every driver that we've spoken to has said how quickly they've been able to get comfortable. James French and Kyle Masson will go back. I'll guarantee you they will go back to the States, and hopefully IMSA will ask them. They'll be raving about this. They jumped into that with... Now, they are both very competent drivers.
And they've won.
You know, and they've won.
You're right.
Yes, but they jumped in and got familiar with that car in race conditions in no time at all.
All of a sudden, we're beginning to get James Winslow making inroads into that gap. He's closed the gap on the last 2 laps. 1:54.5 from James takes a 1.1 second bite out of the lead of Kyle Masson in the number 54 Optimum car. 2.3 seconds now the gap. Peter Cox, meanwhile, does his fastest lap of the race, a 1:55.5. to comprehensively better the time of the Century Motorsport car behind, who is very soon going to have, and has already got, his mirrors full of Jordan Sanders in the Graf Racing Ginetta. That's the battle for fourth, and that puts that pair just 10 seconds back from Peter Cox.
In the C-Ed category, it's Frederic de Rocha in the EDEC Sport Ligier that leads, but not by much. And the lap times there are pretty close as well. It's Nick Adcock Nigel Adcock rather, in the 46.
The Wolf.
Nick Adcock, I was right the first time. It's the Wolf.
You're getting Nick Adcock and Nigel Farmer mixed up, weren't you?
I always go with what you think the first time. It's almost always correct. And in third position, and that's only another 2 or 3 seconds further back. No, it's 11 seconds further back. Oh, that's all of a sudden opened up just a little bit. Is the AUH Motorsport 2 podia so far in the first 2 3-hour races, which is really impressive for the local team.
Well, if it carries on, it must score a podium, because with that incident counting for both the Craft Racing Norma and we know for certain that the Radical is out the race. We don't know yet whether or not they're going to try to get the Norma back. But they will be in a very strong position to have a trio of 3-hour triumphs on the podium for the AUH guys.
Right turn lover, tuned in from up in London, well, Heathrow, actually, they say. XLMP3 cars, might they be eligible in the future, just in case someone comes out to play? So Johannes Quaglita, we said no reason why
I see no reason at all why they wouldn't.
They're not being in.
I think if they got a taker for it, they would find a way to actually put those cars in.
And if you are just joining us for the first time, because this is one of the 3 races that is best suiting your time zone, then you might not have heard that the organisers, Creventic, have said that the up to 2016 LMP2 cars are eligible for this event, and they will welcome them in.
Absolutely. Great to hear.
I love that idea.
And that opens up the potential for there to be a much simplified class structure here, which effectively has P2 cars and G57 P2s with LMP3s, and then the CN cars in a 3-class structure.
3 classes.
Plus the PX class that welcomes in. And that was another talking point, wasn't it? That might we see Renault RS01s and potentially the Glickenhauses come out to play in this.
The PX is effectively the class that is the catch-all, an RS01 in full RS01 spec, not in the GT3-alike spec. Now coming to the end of the lap, and this is a battle on the track at turn 16 as the 57
54
and the 54 battle away. Across the line, the leader.
It's 0.4 of a second now between 54 and 52. James Winslow looking for a way by.
Excuse me, 52, not the 57, that's my fault.
Clearly had to just deal with the traffic, which is the leading pair of CN cars, the 17.
And that is a battle that is a battle, you're right.
Absolutely.
First and second.
That's the lead battle between the EDEC Sport Ligier. EDEC Sport, another team that will be in the Dubai 24 Hours later this week. And actually also in yacht racing, EDEC Sport.
What sort of yacht racing?
Big yacht racing.
As in America's Cup style stuff?
It's little, I think it's 1 step below there.
Okay, very good. Astonishingly interesting racing here. I love the tactical aspect of these pit stops and having to drive flat out, make sure that you've got everything, all your ducks in a row. 55-2. 3.62 last time around for Jordan Sanders in the 57 Graf Racing Ginetta as he went by the Century Motorsport car, the 51 of Dan Mackay. They're racing the Trophy Jules Verne.
It's around the world trophy, isn't it?
That Vendée Globe, that is, I think.
Maybe wrong then.
You might be right. Running a trimaran by the look of it. Wow.
Looks less fun than this.
It's a bit like motor racing. Motor racing was once described to me as tearing up £50 notes and throwing them away, and sailing at that level is tearing up £50 notes and throwing them away whilst having people throw buckets of cold seawater at you.
Lead battles side by side through the final turn as they come around to complete lap 15. And who is going to cross the line in the lead? It's James Winslow. He takes it as they come into the final section of the circuit. James Winslow leads now for Simpson Motorsports, pulls out a not dissimilar 0.4 seconds. Disadvantage he has is now his advantage over Carl Masson in the Optimum Motorsport 54. Peter Cox, meanwhile, still running in third position, still fending off the pair of Ginettas behind, but now just beginning to see Jordan Sanders nibble into the advantage that the P3 car had. Gap now 9 seconds, and again, actually this time takes a full second out of Peter Cox. We're beyond the first half hour of racing. Well, we're beyond the first half hour since the race started, of course. We had that code 64, the issue accounting for the two CN cars at the start of the race. So 52 from 54, 48, 57, and 51 and 55. That's the lead group. The LMP3 car in third position. The remainder of that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars is a quintet of Ginettas. Then we get into the pair of battling. No, we don't. We get into the second of the P3 cars. Then it is the ATEX DXB car, the number 56, Ginetta G57. And then it's the battling CN cars, a second apart. So Edex Sports number 17. Pretty little car with the livery that is, well, carried across to their GT car. They're in the Dubai 24 Hours with the Mercedes-Benz.
It's a Cox Motorsport light as well, isn't it?
Indeed,
really?
Into their P2 car in the ELMS, and they're another team that's bitten the bullets and will be with the new P2 this year. And indeed, they're a racing yacht.
So 3.5 seconds between first and second, and then a big gap back to Peter Cox. And just 9 seconds now between Peter Cox and the Graf Racing Ginetta in the hands of Jordan Sanders, who is starting to close just ever so slightly on Peter Cox. And as I say that, of course, he loses half a second, and that is a testament to how hard Peter Cox is pushing that Ligier.
It is indeed. It is, well, under 9 seconds now, the gap.
Interesting that, you know, in various stages of the race, we know that the 57s can get down under 154. Peter
Under
Cox
153, in fact.
Yes, that's right. Peter Cox has peppered the 155 marker. We've had a couple of people, including Federico De Rocha in the EDEC Sport Ligier, down in the 57s in a CN car. Did he get a 56, in fact?
He got a 56.9, I think, but at the moment the fastest lap of the race for those two cars, both in the 202s, so at this stage with those drivers...
They must be very heavy on fuel.
Yeah, 202.7, and of course that's going to affect that car proportionally more because it's a lighter weight car. So the proportional effect of the weight of the fuel on the CN cars is going to be bigger.
That is a very, very good point. Very good point.
So it shows, really, doesn't it, that the potential effect on the fuel is up to 5 seconds at this stage against a lighter car at the end of the stint.
Winslow painting a very pretty picture at the head of the field as he comes out of the 16th and final.
And pulling away now.
He has got the ability to just get himself into that metronomic pattern and routine and rhythm of racing. James Winslow in that 52 car as he goes flat from when you turn in to turn 1 and get the car settled. It's flat through 1, 2 and 3. You gather the car back up again through 4, 5 and 6. Tricky through 6. A little bit of a lack of grip there, it would seem. A transition point where the aero doesn't quite like it. 7 easy to get on the power too early. 8 and 9 think of as two elements of the same corner, which takes you onto the back straight. And on the back straight, it's foot flat down. And frankly, that's the easy bit. Getting it stopped for turn 10, not so much. Uphill through turn 10 after the apex of the road falling away and dragging you over the left-hand side, which is a killer because you want to be on the right-hand side, because turn 11 is a left-hand kink and a far more difficult corner than it looks, because you've got to position yourself again on the wrong side of the road. As you come out of the corner, you'll drift over to the right, and you need to be on the left for the entrance to the quite tight turn 12. Again has a little brow on the exit, down through 13, which is easy flat. Change of surface just on the braking point for 14, which could catch one or two people out, as the 81 car is in the pit lane. Nick Damon.
Yeah, it was almost like the pit lane had some form of terrible disease, because no one was prepared to come down it. But finally we have the 81. Oddly, after about 40 minutes, it's a full service with driver change. So out has got Tarek Egerman has got out, and in, I believe, is getting Konstantin Gukayev. Cool. To run at that one, almost got it right. There are a little bit of looking around in this car. I'm not sure if that was a problem. We could go a quick bit with Tarek and just see this a standard stop. Tarek, that stop seemed a bit early. Is it a standard stop, or is there a problem?
No, it's a strategy. Konstantin wants to try and avoid driving in the night. Me being a local, I know the track quite well, and yeah, so it's a strategic thing.
As a local, it's pretty impressive how many teams from this region are doing well here and also in the main 24-hour race.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, you look at Black Falcon with Abu Dhabi Racing and the Saudi team, and also the Saudi Falcons. By local, I mean I live here, but I am an Aussie. But yeah, it's great to see the local teams participating. It's great for UAE motorsport and for the region, where it's growing unbelievably. So it's really good, and we hope to keep seeing it growing.
And how are the CNs around this course, you know, working together with the prototype, the bigger prototypes? I mean, is it a good mix?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for us, especially in a radical, because we can't compete with anything. So we've been strategically getting onto the podium just by consistency and being quick. But yeah, the prototypes are great. I just think some of the drivers don't know the length of their cars, because when they pass us, they sort of chop us off. But it's all good, you know. It's a great race, and I hope they can expand on it next year and have a lot more entries in all different classes.
Tarek, thanks for it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been 2 podia in the 2 races so far for AUH Racing, and as was pointed out there, AUH Motorsport is the UAE entered team, and Tarak El Gamal, the Australian by birth but lives out here, races on a UAE licence.
You shouldn't be worried that we'll hold that against him, his Australianness, to be honest with you. I think it's quite a good thing.
This from Kurt Schur, who says, I love this no-nonsense racing for racing's sake. Creventic gets it. In this case, I'm defining it as what I like to watch.
Well, look at it this way. There's an opportunity here for people to come and race, and for that matter, do business with the racing community here offered in the midweek. And if that draws an audience as a bonus, that's a wonderful thing to do, isn't it? And we've got all sorts of people that we won't mention are telling us they're doing all sorts of things to watch and listen in what could or could not be your lunch break, John, in Scotland. Wink, wink. But I mean, that's a great thing. It's offering more opportunity, and why not midweek racing? Why not midweek motorsport?
Yeah, and that's tonight, 8 o'clock UK. Do the arithmetic for your part of the world. And look, I love a nice static car show as much as the next man. But you know, if you want to sell racing cars, why wouldn't you bring potential customers to a race where your racing car is racing to show the potential of it?
Absolutely right. By the way, I just noticed another change, which is Philippe Isbrook is in the 56 car. It's just been lapped by the leader.
Yeah.
No, so he's just stepped out of the 50 car that was in trouble and hasn't taken the grid. So it's another change to the drive lineup. I think we're seeing much the same thing happening, by the way, as we just heard Tarek say about getting the drivers out that don't want to drive her at night, because we've also got the number 17 EDEC Sport car in from the lead in CN. Now, I would presume at the moment that that's not a problem for the 17 car, but I'm trying to find out where that is, or is it comes straight back out? That was a short stop, so that may have been a car coming in with a bit of a problem. I don't know if Nick actually spotted what happened there. Race will go into night mode in about 40 minutes.
Nick Damon? No, not Nick Damon. Go back to Nick in a moment. Hello, Nick. Yes, sorry, you opened your mic.
Battery change on the camera. Yeah, the 17 came in, made a driver change, and that was it. Then just trolled back out again. So it looks like the CNs don't need two big slugs of fuel, so they are tactically holding off those two long stops. As you say, it is beginning to become quite pleasant. We're beginning to see the sun set, so soon the darkness will follow, which will put off some of these gentlemen drivers.
Right, you would, but I do question at this stage. I'm guessing there's been no change for race 3 in the pit stop times, and that doesn't play a part. But certainly, yes, it does seem as if what's happening here is the tactical changes to move the drivers around, get them the time they want in the car, but not leave them in the car into darkness.
Tim Gray, our executive producer up in London, who is on duty for us today and will be taking us through midweek motorsport later on in the evening. We've got a barbecue to go to before that. It could get messy, midweek motorsport tonight, really could. Quite late here. Says one of the reasons to statically display your racing car and sell it at a show could be that you don't have any confidence that it would be A, competitive, or B, reliable. You see,
or C, not come back in a bucket.
Yeah, well, there's that. I think that's probably more important. If only everybody had to race the cars before they sold them, then I don't think motorsport would be any the worse for that. I'm always very...
I think there's a fair few cars when it gets sold.
Well, you know, there have been cases down the year when people haven't had the confidence to do that and put a car out and wanted their customers to develop the cars for them, and perhaps, you know, that is one of the reasons why particular manufacturers, and let's put Ginetta front and centre with that, have had the confidence to build cars and either nominate a team or put a team together themselves to go and race cars and put them out there in front of people and say, there you go, there's the product. Absolutely. Which is effectively what they're doing here, let's be honest. How many did they bring here? 8 cars?
It's 8 cars. Now, I mean, I remember asking several people at Ginetta what we were to expect from them at the racing car show this weekend some while back, and tellingly, they wouldn't tell me. We now know why, of course, was because they will be presenting the LMP1 programme to the waiting audience there.
More of that on Midweek Motorsport tonight.
We hope,
in the
absolutely.
UK.
And we'll wait and see. I mean, but they do tend to produce what they say they're going to produce, and let's not forget some of the things we've seen down through the years. The Ginetta G50 effectively kick-started GT4. The Ginetta effectively kick-started LMP3. They may be in a position where their new LMP1 programme might help to, you know, a new era in LMP1 privateer. But beyond that, we had remember the G50 with the Zytec, the ex-Zytec LMP engine in the car. We had a electrically powered Ginetta G50 back in the day. I remember being chauffeured around Hilton Park, but in that car by none other than Lawrence Tomlinson himself. So there's all sorts of things that come out from the Brains Trust at Garforth. And this is early days.
Lead us into the pit lane.
Now that's early.
Yes, let's go down to Nick Damon.
We've been preparing this for a couple of laps, so it is now happening. Out will get James Winslow. Unfortunately, the driver's getting in. Not quite sure he is, because he hasn't got his name on his overalls, which is very unfair, and has a jet black carbonised helmet. So I'm not sure if it's a 2-man or a 3-man car. I guess it might be Mr. Sanders, I'm not sure.
No, Sanders is already out in the 57 car. I think that's John Corbett. It definitely isn't Mr. Sanders then. Even the best driver can't drive 2 cars at once. So this is a standard stop. They are doing the old let's waggle the wheel bearings. It would be if you're having an MOT, as Peter Cox goes past me to my right, who will again running a short session with a pass over Nico Cross. Sorry to run the middle. So the standard stop here for the Ginetta 52. No tyres, by the way, so they are giving
going straight back up there. They have a 400-second stop this time, 20 seconds down from the first race. And yeah, quite a lot of waggling. So I think they're still kind of part of the track testing to see what begins to get loose after being vibrated around for 7 hours of racing. And that seems to be okay. James Winslow over in the corner. See if I can grab a quick word with James. He's looking really hot. I'm trying to point the just. James, first question: who's jumped in to replace you?
Sorry, just get my breath. John Corbett.
Ah, right, we weren't sure. He's got a matte black helmet and hasn't got his name in his waistband. He's not a proper race driver. I can't tell who he is.
I've been working with John for 2.5 years, bit of coaching. Brought him on from Radical Australia. So this is like his international debut, really. He's driven a P3 once, and now he's driving the Ginetta P2. So he's done very well, improving every single lap and every session, with a bit of help from myself. Yeah.
Well, talk about that. Great 45, 50 minutes from you. You suddenly found a bit of extra pace after about 25 minutes. Why was that?
The front tyre just took a while to come in. I guess we set the tyre pressures for the long haul. It's obviously pretty hot in the middle of the day, so I think we ran slightly too low on the front tyre pressure, but it came to me after 25 minutes, and it's a 4-hour race, so it could have possibly been the right decision. The guy in front of me's tyres went off. We've had a few power steering issues and a few issues in the previous races, so it's nice to show what speed we got.
Now, a bit bad news for you. It's only a 3-hour race, so you need to time it, not 4. So, hey-ho, I mean, the tyres might last a bit better. But on a serious point, you've sent this called back out again with the scrub tyres. What's happening there? I mean, you finding they're better in the second half hour?
Yeah, they're quite a hard compound, so they're great for endurance racing, and they last quite a while. So, first race yesterday, we ran one set of tyres the entire race. And we're possibly going to do the same thing. It obviously takes a bit longer to change tyres, although there is a mandatory pit stop. So at the moment the tyres are fantastic and they're still releasing their chemical. So even after a 45-minute stint or however long I just drove, tyres are still perfect.
Last bit of this race will be in darkness. You ran in night practice yesterday. I mean, does that change much? Does it like the cooler conditions more?
Yeah, the car likes the cool conditions, but the driver doesn't like the dark conditions. Some of the parts of the track are absolutely pitch black. In a prototype with a roof and A pillars, it's very hard to see some of the apexes on right-handers, particularly turn 5, 6 and 7. So I think in the night it's just about staying on the track, and we'll all be lapping 4 seconds off of our normal pace.
James, great run, thanks.
That's very interesting, that is the issue of visibility. You normally lap at least as well, if not as perhaps a little quicker in the night time, provided you're confident with the circuit. I have to say, I love driving racing cars in the night. I haven't done that much of it, but that I've done, I've enjoyed.
While Nick was talking to James Winslow, we also have got a pit stop for the number 48 Cox Racing LMP3. That means that what we've got now is Ginetta Fest at the front. It is the 54, Carl Masson, back to the lead of the race. He led from the start, of course, the Optima Motorsport Ginetta. Jordan Sanders is next up and will come through to complete his lap 24 in moments.
And in third, just going round turn 14, the horseshoe up over the rise to the right-hander at 15. Those red and white curves just getting a little bit dark and down with the Hankook rubber. That is the Century Motorsport 51 car with Daniel Mackay.
Absolutely, that will be in third position. It's 30 seconds now, the gap, but the gap being held by Carl Masson to Jordan Sanders at the moment. And then behind that pair, it's a further 14 seconds before we get to Daniel Mackay. Jeta Kapal in fourth position now for CWS before we get to the first of the P3 cars, which is the Graf Racing car. So it's 1 minute and 1 second is the gap between the top four. Now, what's happened there? Because the Simpson car has gone out after just 5 minutes. That's too quick.
Which car is this?
This is the 52 car that was leading the race.
Well, unless they're still going to do 2 more stops from now.
It's possible. It's possible. Nico Prunk, meanwhile, rejoins in the Cox Racing car, the 48 car. And that car is back out on track with an almost perfect 4 minutes and 43, I think that is, on our screens. 4:40 is the minimum pit stop time for the two that car needs to take. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for Ginetta G57. Then the Next up in the order is a P3 car, the Gref Racing Ligier, that won the first race, courtesy of a faultless run whilst others faltered. Then a further Ginetta, Willy Bezerbroek aboard the 56 car, pits as I say that, and then the first of the CN cars, the Hankook in the Avalon Formula Wolf, the 46 car. And then the first two pit stoppers, James Winslow's 52 car, though of course it's not James aboard the car anymore. He told us it's John Corbett.
Yeah, John Corbett in that car. That's black.
He has a 30-second gap to Nico Pronk. But yet.
And Nick Damon has the news of a transgression in the pit lane.
Yeah, it's a penalty for the rather attractive black and lime green 56 car that has... Oh, it's a double penalty because what's happened was it served the penalty and now they can't restart it. Now it's got going again. Now, does this... Interesting thing is, if you're coming in for your pit stop and you serve a stop and go, how does that affect how long you're supposed to do the overall pit stop length? Do you just add that, say, 30 seconds to the 7 minutes? Or is there extra?
We'd have to check the regs for that because, of course, you'd be profiting from only having to run into the pit lane once.
Yeah, I assume there must be something to do. Now, obviously, the fact that it didn't start, as long as they can start it, is no loss because they have plenty of time to sit around and do nothing in all these stops. But it would be slightly worrying the thing didn't fire up again from the penalty box. But it's a very leisurely spin around. Out gets Philippe Hazelbroek and into get Bassam Kaliev. But they don't seem overly concerned about the issue with the starter because they are having to put in a very, very different seat insert for the two drivers. Bassam a lot taller than Philippe. And slight, no, still, they've both got a slight gentleman driver build about them. And I can say, because I have one as well. But, yeah, so another quite quiet stop. We are going to be getting a few more. The Ottomans will be in a second. I expect now we're in the rotation because we are, of course, an hour down. But they have got a bit of free fuel from the code 60.
Sorry, Nick, which car was that you were talking about? What number?
56.
56.
56 should have Julian Griffin, Ollie Smith and Rick Breukers in it.
No. Not at all, and no.
Oh.
Philip Hazelbroek and Bassan Cromfield is ready to get in. So it looks like the rotation of the Ginetta drivers to make sure they all get lots of track time and therefore want to go and buy one of these, copyright L. Tomlinson 2017, is working well.
So, I've not heard what... was it the 56 that was under-investigated? I wonder whether or not that is another Code 60 violation. Because that's where we've seen the time penalties judged so far. Cheetah Kapal, by the way, is the latest into the garage and will be just pulling in behind Nick Damon right now in the rather pretty metallic green and yellow CWS Ginetta. And any dramas there? I can see JT Kapal being hauled out the car, Nick.
All calm on the western front, well, all calm on the Dubai front, I suppose, as the drivers gets out, and it's very calm. There's a massive amount of rear check. So obviously lost the camera. Yeah, so again, these are very, very calm stops. Interestingly, they're looking at the 65, now they're having problems shutting the door, so it wouldn't start coming out of the penalty box, and now it won't shut the door. Has two big and burly men to rock it. That's rockets backwards and forwards, so they're obviously trying to get a bit of engagement with the starter motor. As the 54 Optimum Motorsport car comes in as well, and they now have to use a relatively low amount of lock to try and get out. No, that's not working. They've now got some basic steering issues here of trying to steer out by Basil, but they move forward, and now they go. And will the thing fire up is the question.
Leader in the pits as well, Nick.
It looks like they're going to push the car down to the fuel stop and then worry about getting... No, they're bumping it. Ah, that's a good old-fashioned bump. But that means they're going to have to try and do that again when it takes on fuel, surely. Yeah. So, anyway, we had the 54 Optimum in front of us. That's a full service. That's also taken on a couple of tyres. It's put new boots on to all four corners. The car that won the second of these three races. Also have a driver change. And I understand there's a 55 gets away. That seems quite swift. in waiting time. So the 55 car is
55 has been on the pit road for 2 minutes, Nick, at the point at which it heads down towards...
whether they've changed the timings again. But we will see when they come out. It's supposed to be 400 seconds. It was 420 in race 1. It was 400 seconds in race 2. I would have thought they would have stuck with it because it seemed pretty well balanced to that point.
Checking now.
The Optimum car has a problem, I'm afraid. They are having issues. They've come off behind the driver. They're taking the driver's seat insert out because they're having a look at the electrics. So the 54 had an electrical issue. I can see them wandering down, and they're trying to undo the battery at the moment. So unfortunately, what looked like a relatively standard stop for the 54, which I think it was Carl Masson was riding that, wasn't it?
Carl Masson, yes.
Was driving it. According to this, he's going to get back in the car again because he's got his helmet on, unless he's swapped helmets. They are now having a longer stop because they are sourcing some form of electrical issue.
Was it Carl Masson in the car? Because there's a driver in the garage.
No.
I wonder whether that was
Carl Masson about to get in the car. Oh, no, hang on, no, it's not. It's Robert Masson about to get in the car. It must be a pair of Massons.
Wow. Well, that's a change again.
Rob Masson is Carl's dad, I believe.
It is Carl's father. So
No, in which case that man has borrowed a helmet because that man is not old enough to be anyone's father, not even on a Luton Council estate.
the reason I say it, Nick, is because there was another driver being congratulated by an Optimum mechanic in the pit garage.
No, I saw that as well. But he does say Robert Masson. That Robert Masson is a very lanky, I would say, 20-year-old. Can't guarantee it. The other driver has unfortunately now run off the back, but it was supposed to be Carl, wasn't it?
It was supposed to be Carl. I'm just wondering whether or not it was James French.
But why would there be Robert Masson on the other helmet? Oh, mystery. We need Bradley of the Yard down here.
He's just woken up. He'll be with you in a moment.
Still having his evening nap at the moment.
Of course.
He'll need to be birthed and rubbed down,
in comes the Graf P3 car as well. So,
Indeed. And that car comes in from 3rd position overall, as Chief Inspector Damon sorts out who was driving what in the 54 crew. To the lead, by the way, goes the 57 car. It's the other Graf racing car. The 57 Janetta Jordan Sanders now leads the race. There's the 12 car.
Where's the 12 car?
In the pits.
Thank you. Not everybody can see the pictures, Graham.
I do apologise.
Yes, come on. Start of the year. Don't let you get yourself into bad habits.
And 12 car winner, of course, of race 1. Came in from 3rd position overall in race 2. Race 3 here. And we're beginning to see the telltale lengthening shadows that says that the night is beginning to fall. It goes down very quickly indeed. A one-way bungee cord.
A one-way bungee cord to darkness.
To darkness.
That was a concept album, I think, in... the sunset tonight is 5:48. So we've got just over 50 minutes. 40 minutes, rather.
And we've just gone through the first hour, by the way. 1 hour and 58 minutes of prototype racing remain for the week's action. Into the pits, meanwhile, comes the 2nd place car. It's a Century Motorsport 51 Janetta. Daniel Mackay at the wheel comes in some 30 seconds back from the leading car. And myriad of cars either on pit road or in the fueling point. It must be pretty crowded down the fueling point at the moment.
How many have we worked out? How many pumps we've got this year?
It's 4.
Something that we need to look at. Nick Damon?
Normally it's 10.
It's 4 double-sided pumps were there when I arrived. It may be that they put something else in.
There's normally 2 for diesel. I'm not sure if we've got any... I haven't checked if we've got any diesel entries actually for the 24.
I've got a funny feeling that the Corolla BMW is a diesel.
Right. I know the Spiker, the Straker isn't here because that normally runs for about an hour and then just dumps its oil over the track for everyone. The 54 Optimum's still in, and they've bought one of those kind of expandable cooling tubes, and they're wondering whether they're getting some problem with the electrics overheating. The mystery Masson is still waiting to get in the car. We have a full service, including brand new tyres, right in front of me for the 51, the Century car. And I think it was Ewan who got out and Daniel got in, or have I got that wrong way?
Daniel got
out. Daniel got out. And Ewan has just been strapped in.
Correct.
So that's also waiting. Yes, they're also now having a quick look as well. But that's it looks like a zero problem. Oxman's still sitting there, so that's not gone well for them. So this is going to be interesting when this rubs out in about 2 laps' time, when they've all gone their pit stops. It's going to be an interesting change of the order at the top, as various people have had clean stops and a number have had small problems.
The 81 is the white SR3. That's one of the radicals here. And that 81 car, the AUH Motorsport car, the UAE entered Radical SR3 RSX, I should say. Konstantin Gukayev behind the wheel of that car, the Russian licensed driver.
The Russian colours on the end plates.
I did notice that, yes.
Always has been a neat and tidy little car, the SR3.
I'd forgotten just what a compact design it was until we've seen them here this weekend. They have very much the sort of the cam tail, the cut-off tail, whereas a lot of the cars in that sort of category have the extended areas of bodywork behind the rear wheels, and it gives it a completely different complexion and profile. Very tidy front end as well on that car.
Impressive economy. I know we've had a bit of a Code 60, but impressive economy from the number 57 car, still going, and now 1 hour and 5 minutes into the stint for Jordan Sanders, keeping an eye to see whether
the only other car that is anywhere near that. Oh, as I say that, it must have just popped into the pits, has it?
Not yet. No, he's going to go through for another lap, I think, if I'm looking at the right car coming through to finish the lap. The 46 Wolf is in.
Avalon Wolf has just come in, and that's the leading CN car in 3rd position when it came in, 3rd overall. And
57 goes through for another lap, so we'll be at least 1 hour and, 7.5 minutes.
So now we are seeing what the G57 can do.
So this is the difference between required stops early, strategy to keep the things we've got.
That's our leader in the positioning
CN
class is 1.
So
the
Nick
red
Hancock
number is 3 position
out.
overall.
Having a chat behind, you see the very bright overalls in the background.
So is that Amro Al-Hamed getting in? Yes, it is.
Or did we saw Mr. Bellotti in the car this morning?
Oh yes, good point.
So that's another car that's had a bit of a reshuffle.
Yeah, the Wolf again. A little bit more bodywork behind those rear wheels. Very form-fitting bodywork as well, isn't it? It's almost like someone's just draped a sheet over a single-seater and basically drawn the bodywork around that. The 12 car has been off and back on again. That was
on its outlap.
On its outlap for the Ligier, the leading Ligier for Team Graf. And that had Edward Lewis Browner in it.
And away goes the 46 down towards the fuel points. Still attention being paid to the number 54. So it looks as if the 54 is losing the opportunity for a double win here. Hour and 53 minutes to go though. Jordan Sanders coming towards the end of his 32nd lap on 1 tank of fuel. Is he going to pit now? And the answer is
no.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, he is.
Oh yeah.
He's in pit road.
Sorry, I was looking at the...
he was in close contention with the other Graf car,
exactly,
which is a lap or 2 down.
Yeah, my fault.
So, impressive economy there from a Ginetta G57 P2.
32 laps, not all at racing speed.
But most of them were. That was a reasonably quick Code 60. So they'll have run at a conservative pace, of course, behind the... not behind the anything, was it, on the Code 60, but team go to work.
It's a
driver strides out.
With the Code 60.
Now, that is not a Lawrence Tomlinson, because he's not going to be in the car.
Well, we're looking just down in front
57.
of us.
It's not Mike Simpson, so that will be Khaled, won't it? That'll be Khaled Al-Mudath getting aboard the car with his back towards you, John.
Not sure, actually. He had his Porsche. No, it is. Yeah, it is coloured. Now that I've managed to focus my binoculars.
So stepping out of the HHC car for race 2 and into the Graf car for race 3, yet another locally based driver. And they'll want a fair few of those drivers for the planned 12-hour race here next year. It'd be great to see, wouldn't it? An all locally crewed car
And
in the sharp end.
Rick Breukers immediately down to fastest pace of the car speed. The Ginetta of the 56 team, the ATEC DXB car, 59.9. And that was his first flying lap.
Wow.
In that car. If you were with us for the earlier races, a couple of things that has come out of this first ever Proto Series race. LMP2 cars, P2 cars, up to including the 2016 cars that you've seen around the world.
So the cars that were racing last year in the LMS and in the WEC, and for that matter in IMSA.
In IMSA, yeah. Those cars, anything up to 2016, are being courted by the organisers, invited in to this mixed category prototype racing series, and which will start next year with a championship opener of 12 hours here at the Dubai Autodrome on Sunday the 7th of January. And yes, it has been planned that far ahead. Sunday, you're saying, that's not a race the day that we normally race here. You'd be right to say that. That is the week before the 24.
Correct.
So the pit garage issue that was brought up by Peter Cox has been solved.
Yes, indeed.
Assessed and solved. So the prototype teams will get the garages for the first racing weekend, and then the second racing weekend in what I'm already calling the 24-hour series Dubai Festival.
Absolutely.
Of endurance will be the GTs and the touring cars.
Indeed.
I'm already excited by that, Grim. I really am.
57, another of the Ginettas requiring a bit of a push to get back underway and head down towards the fuel points.
And by the way, on display
The TCR car.
in the barbecue area, next to two very pretty Peugeots, one of which at least is one of the racing series Peugeots, is an Audi Sport RS3 TCR car, which already has potential customers having a good sniff around it.
Well, that car, we've got one of those cars is in the local TCR Championship round that we're going to see.
TCR Middle East. We'll cover that for you on Friday, Thursday and Friday.
And it's also taking part in the 24 hours.
Is that the car sport car?
There is certainly a Audi RS3 in the back of one of those garages, and with a banner above it for the 24-hour series cars.
Purposeful, I think, is my first
I like it a lot.
thought about that car.
I like TCR a lot. I think it's bringing a bit of pride back into touring cars
for the manufacturers.
Absolutely right. 54 car, by the way. Issue appears to be solved and is on its way down towards the fueling point, but that has done major damage to the effort, I'm afraid. It's a long pit stop for that car.
15 minutes now, yeah. Shame they couldn't have sort of pushed it out halfway around and then brought it back again. That would have been the 7-minute stop's done.
Now, some little while ago, John, you predicted that the leader should be a CN car.
Yep.
That's about to happen in about 30 seconds' time.
Yep.
We're waiting for the EDEX Sport car to come around.
Won't be scored as the leader on this lap, unfortunately. No. But it will be the time after if it stays out. This is the number 17 car, which has David Abramczyk, the Frenchman, behind the wheel. And then, of course, eventually it will. It's had one. Now this is. I wonder if this is tactical as well, because that car's only been out for 29 minutes.
I'm pretty certain that was another one that we're looking at getting a driver in so they can get their time in before we get into full darkness.
We are 30 minutes exactly away from sunset, which means about 32 minutes before it's pitch black here.
Correct. That's about right. It does just look like someone's drawn the curtains, doesn't it, really? 17 crosses the line to start the lap that will take it to the lead of the race, John.
The other thing is, Graham, that we've not been able to see the coastline at all today. We normally see both of the berge at various times during the day, and it's not cleared up quite enough to see.
Oh, I saw the berge, the hotel very clearly.
Yes, I tell
this
a lie.
morning.
It's but we've not seen the Burj Khalifa, have we? We've seen the Burj Arabia.
Yeah.
The Burj Khalifa is just emerging out of the
Glittering.
Just as the sun's caught it there, the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, just behind the life-size Airbus A380 made out of flowers.
You didn't believe me when I said that was made out of flowers,
I did
you?
initially. I thought they parked an airliner there because it looks so convincing from this distance, but it is indeed on the outskirts, just beyond the motorway, on the outskirts of the circuit here, is one of the major exhibitions being held, and a key part of that is indeed a life-size Airbus A380 made out of flowers. There's Burj Khalifa, and there you can see, just if you're watching the stream, in the middle of the picture there is that airliner made out of flowers.
The Burj Khalifa seemed to be eclipsed by a few feet by the Dubai Tower. The groundwork for that and the groundbreaking was done just before Christmas, and in Festival City, or just next to Festival City, Creek side there, which is now going to be called Dubai Creek, I believe, a slightly larger building.
And to the lead goes the export car.
And by the way, that new Dubai Tower, which has just the matter of 12 stories of shopping in it, as well as some living space and some office space as well.
So you never need to leave the building.
No, it does look like something like of a sci-fi movie, because it's almost like it's enclosed at the bottom end. That will be finished, ready to go by 2020, and the Expo year here. Dubai does have the World Expo in 2020, which, you know, is round the corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
In building terms, to build the world's biggest building.
Well, I have to say, I've worked with civil engineers in a pretty major way in recent years. Every single one of the senior engineers I've worked with has built something here.
Yeah,
every one of them.
It's extraordinary how many cranes are back here in this area and working again. Huge infrastructure project, including the new airport, just 30 kilometres away from where we're standing at the moment, out towards Abu Dhabi.
A third international airport in Dubai.
Just extraordinary.
Meantime, quick spin for Nico Pronk, but retains his third position. The lead of the race, meanwhile, it's the CN IDEX Sport car. Owes us a longer stop, mind you, and then it's the two P3 cars now being chased back down by the charging Ginettas. So the gap, it's 23 seconds, the lead gap, with the Graf P3 car catching the IDEX Sport CN. Then it's a further, about 50 seconds back to Nico Pronk in the Cox Racing car, but he's been caught, and pretty quick, by a gaggle of Ginettas behind, headed by the Century Motorsports 51. Then comes the Simpson Motorsport 52, and then it's the CWS 55. They are respectively 20, 30 and 40 seconds back.
Now, don't panic if you think, oh well, this is all done and done now, because we've got big gaps. More pit stops to come before the end of the race, and pit stops of differing lengths depending on whether you're a CN and a P3 car or a G57, and significantly different lengths between those mandatory pit stops that have to take place. And we very nearly had a proper grandstand finish at the end of race 2.
Robbed of one by a drive shaft failure for the 57 car, but that car is back out into the running now.
So basically what I'm saying is stay tuned.
Oh yeah, anything could happen in the next 1 hour and 41 minutes, and probably will. So, meantime, we watch the 52 car, if you're watching the stream. But
John Corbett.
Absolutely on track. That car running fourth, by the way. But on track, it is now a matter of the Deck Sport Ligier CN fending off the two Ligier P3 cars. It's a Ligier 1, 2, 3, John.
I'm just going to comment on this because this is something that we need to bear in mind for Friday night into Saturday. Just where the sun is going to be in the driver's eyes here at this time of day as well. Down the front straight you're all right because the grandstand that we're in is shading you from the setting sun, but down at turn one I would have thought it was going to be quite difficult, isn't it? And certainly coming into the final corner. Well, we're all right through turn one, still in shadow there as Brandon Godovic in the CWS car, and he's driving with Colin White over the weekend. So all right, 1, 2, 3 and 4 now we're okay. This is turn 6 now, and just still a little bit of sunshine. So going through 7 into 8, the sun's going to be in driver's eyes, is it? Yes, it is. Ooh, that's nasty.
That's not nice, is it?
Just start to see the headlights beginning to shine on the darkness of the circuit.
And those big curved windscreens won't help, not even a little bit. Get any kind of glare there and you're going to have a major blind spot with it. Meantime, Mackay is gobbling up the time between himself and Nico Pronk. This is now a battle for third position. First of Ginettas now closing in. Night mode in 5 minutes. That's more a signal to the marshals than it is to the drivers.
Yeah, that means they'll be turning on the lighting system in addition to the flags.
Correct. Edex Sports leading car down pit road for its second stop. This will be a longer stop this time. That will put the Graf Racing car pretty soon, in fact almost immediately, into the lead, but is being caught. Actually not being caught by Nico Pronk. So still a 1-2, or will be a 1-2 for the P3 cars, but before too very much longer. In fact, I think on this lap we're going to see second position going to the 51 Century Motorsport Ginetta.
Brandon Godovic racing part-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, so if you will, the second division of the stock car series in the States. Also been doing a little bit of Lamborghini racing in the Challenge Series in the IMSA side of things. Charlie Robertson about to get into the 56, which is in the pit lane, which Rick Broiker's brought in.
Should say, by the way, the 54 car, we were wondering who was getting into that car. That's actually says at the moment James French is in the car. It's, with Robert Masson's helmet.
Ah, there you go. That might make a bit of sense then.
So leader is in the pits. That will put the number 12 Graf Racing Ligier P3 into the lead this time around. We wait for the 12 car to come and finish the lap to be scored in the lead. Does so. No, that's 57 coming through.
And if Brandon Godovic is only as good as his last race, he won the world final, is what I'm reading here.
The answer below number 12 has had a delay because it's had a spin at turn 12 and is continuing. So has had a spin on the lap that should take it to the lead now and does, but will have lost some time to the chasing pack. And that, I think, is now headed by Ewan Mackay, who's dealing at the moment with the number 81 Radical out on track. And I think he will be the next car through. Seven minutes from the halfway mark in this race, John. We've had, therefore, almost 7.5 hours of racing for the prototypes. Charlie Robertson getting aboard the number 56 car. Lessons learned, I think, all round here. Race organisers, teams, drivers are all learning this craft of prototype racing and doing so at a pace. There'll be a long to-do list after this week, I'm sure, for everybody concerned, but there's been a great deal of common sense applied here.
There'll be a lot of number crunching as well after it.
Godovic, by the way, just about to go by the 52 Simpson Motorsport car, right on the heels as they crossed the line of the 52. John Corbett with his mirrors very full indeed of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo star.
Radical racer. Done some races in the Radical European Masters in 2016. Before that, in an SR8 Radical in the Australia Cup, and then the same type of car going back through his earlier part of his careers. But he's been, I think, pretty much until now a Radical driver exclusively.
Could be trouble for the 57 car. This is a very early stop.
This is Khalid Al-Mudha.
Graf Racing car coming down pit road. Now, is it stopping? Is this a pit stop penalty, or is it just stopping for fuel? It's gone past the pits.
Right.
We've not seen any notice of a penalty for that car. Is he just going to turn right into the fueling?
Let me get the...
I can see him clearly from here, John. He's gone for fuel.
Ah, so maybe he's going to take the car into and through the darkness.
What was this pit stop for that the first pit stop for that car? It was long enough to count. So what they could do here, they could hold that car on the fueling point for the 7 minutes.
Well, it's not 7 minutes now, of course.
6 minutes and 40.
Mm-hmm.
They could hold the car there and then just do a splash.
Mm-hmm. How long do we think those Genettas can go?
Well, we just saw the 57, if you remember, was the one they stretched the envelope to over an hour. So that car has not been out for very long. It's been out for about 25 minutes.
Well, what that does, if he does an hour from here, that leaves it about an hour, and by the time he's finished, it's going to leave him...
Hour and 20 minutes. Hour and 28 minutes.
Sorry, if he does an hour from here, it's going to leave about 28 minutes to go.
It's an odd, unless they're trying to get another driver in.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think they're doing. I don't think they'll go... This is quite clever, you know, because what they do, if they fill it now and Khaled doesn't have to go to the end of the fuel, it means if there's a code 60 any time, once they've gone down to half fuel, they can get in
and do a full fuel stop as quickly as they like.
Only put half the fuel in which you're allowed, and then roll that car out as quick as they want. This is a different way of looking at it, Graham, if that's what they're thinking.
I'm not sure they applied that rule, because we had a lot of cars stopping. They should only be allowed to put half the fuel in. That's what the rules say.
There's a sticker on the side of each of the cars to say how much you're allowed under green.
Yeah.
And Nick Damon is going to put a headset on and tell us.
Meantime,
stick your headset on, Nick, otherwise I can't hear you. And Nick says...
I was just going to say that there's a couple of... I think we lost communication there for a while, but there was, for example, the problem with the 54, which is an interesting one. Another version of the power steering problem, but for a different car. They were having issues where there was a non-confluence of battery power. It actually shorted the battery system out, and that started spreading spikes of information that were really upsetting the power steering.
So it's an electrically assisted system.
So I'm wondering if one of the things that Garforth's going to have to do next week is possibly work out a new power system which can take the heat or whatever the routings are.
Yes, whatever it is needs to be sorted, and they'll get the brains trust onto that one. But frustration for two of the crews then with power steering issues. 56 yesterday and 54.
Sorry, Nick, say again.
And there's been a couple of other random electrical things have turned around. I think we also saw one of the other cars trying to source a couple of sensor problems. But this is what they're here for. This is a proper test. It's not obviously like Sebring for 12 hours, but it's still a proper test.
It's a test with cups at the end, isn't it? Which is great.
Oh, that's a good idea.
A test with... And a barbecue.
Well, that's the best part of all. Especially, unfortunately, the rest of the team can't hear this. We've got all their beer tokens.
Absolutely.
And they really are beer tokens.
We're motorsport. This could go really well.
I should say we are likely to get
I'm
lights
turning
on
you off now. You're too excited.
Lights on, says the board. At the start-finish straight, we are likely, I think, to get a change of lead in the next lap or so, because Ewan Mackay catching the leading Graf Racing Ligier P3.
About 8 seconds a lap, Graham.
And it's a gap of 7.3 seconds last time around, so the two cars will be together in what order being sorted.
Brandon Godovich, the American driver. Godovich, my apologies. Used to driving 620 horsepower of Lamborghini, and I have no idea now how much an Xfinity makes. I bet it's 600 horsepower. At least. As the lights are beginning to shine out in the gathering darkness, Amra Al-Hamed, if indeed it is him in the Avalon Wolf, has just done a 2:02.4. One or two drivers being swapped out as they come across the line.
Big gaggle of cars there, 4 or 5 cars together there, including that little Radical that's just, I think, just done a quicker lap time again.
Edward Lewis Browner still leading the race, but by just half a second. So this is the Graf car over the far side of the circuit from us now, and this is where the binos really become important, because they do give you a little bit better view in the darkness.
While you're watching that, John, I'll keep an eye on where we are with the lead battle.
Well,
it's into sector 3 now.
And that is the
So it's
12, 51 and 55 are separated by only half a minute at the front of the fields, having done their first stops each.
Ewan Mackay, though, that half a second back as they cross the line, will surely be thrown into the lead now. And I think he is into a convincing lead. So Ginetta, number 51, goes to the lead. Will be shown on timing and scoring in just a short while.
It's coming to the final corner now, Graham, the new leader coming round onto the start-finish straight. And Ewan Mackay goes through underneath us, and is scored as the leader, and that is the P3 car dropping 6 seconds on that lap. Godovich coming through in third. He'll be with us any second now.
The CWS car just coming through the final turn, just ahead of the Dex Sport car. A lap down, of course, the CN car. 2 laps down now. It's 29 seconds to the leader, 23 seconds to the Graf Racing LMP3 car from Godovich.
So check in with Joe Bradley, who's taken over. We're more than halfway through the race by about a minute. Joe?
Yeah, got an update on that 57 who went straight for fuel. I have never heard this one before in all the Creventic series races we've done. When the 57 car presented itself for fuel, it was told the tanker had ran dry, and could he go out and do a couple of laps and come back in, which he has done. So I presume they've replaced the tanker. I've never ever heard that before.
We did have one issue. You may or may not recall, Joe. We had an issue at the 12 Hours of Mugello, and that was not the tanker running dry. It was the miscalculating, with the race proving more popular than they expected. It doubled the number of cars in the race year on year, and there weren't enough fuel points. And the race was decided on that occasion by the leading GT car not being able to fuel and being effectively getting a minute and a half penalty because they were queuing for fuel. There were not enough fuel points to actually service the teams. So we have had a couple of fuel woes. It all comes out in the mix, though, doesn't it? That one, though, looks like a bit of a miscalculation by somebody managing that facility. Let's hope that doesn't damage the prospects of that 57 car. They clearly will not, therefore, be penalised for the slow pit stop, for the quick pit stop. 1:55.208, meanwhile, fastest lap of its race for the 51 car in the hands of Ewan Mackay, pulling away rapidly now from the number 12 LMP3 car. Stands at the moment second overall, is 13.3 seconds back now. How much closer, though, is Brendan Godovich in the 55 CWS car? The answer is just coming into the final turn as the Graf car crosses the line, and we'll be crossing the line. We'll get a gap in just a few moments' time. 51 from 12 from 55, 31 seconds back from the leader. So losing ground to the leader, but catching the Graf Ligier at the rate of about 5 seconds a lap. What a fantastic sunset shot.
Sunset officially in 10 minutes' time from now, but as you can see from the pictures, those of you on the stream, the sun, if you actually, and no, you shouldn't stare into the sun, but if you take a video from your camera in the space of 2 or 3 minutes, you can see the sun dropping below the skyline. The where we are at Festival City is a beautiful view across the creek to downtown Dubai in the Burj Khalifa, and there's the Burj just being picked out in the setting sun. And over the space of about 90 seconds or 2 minutes, the sun drops below the skyscrapers.
If you just go to the right there, you can see the Airbus there. Oh, big problem for that's 46.
Oh, that's an engine on the 46, the leading CN car. It's at turn 10. Oh, was that a huge lock-up? Well, there's a spin now.
It seemed to come initially from the front right corner.
No, there's an engine issue there. The driver's worried about fire, and that's why he's out of that car. He's smelt it, he's felt it, and
I think it was both of them, wasn't it? He smelt it and then braked hard. Oh dear
what
me.
A shame. And ultimately, I think that's put on its own oil at the end.
That was the leader in CN.
It was.
And the EDEX sport car a lap behind. And pretty disgusted driver walks away from that. And
Nick Damon just telling me that their car retired with an oil circulation problem in the first race, which they thought they'd fettled. So
is that still the same smoke cloud, or is that someone else having locked up behind him?
Well, they could be oil down, Graham.
The yellow flag's obviously for the 46, but there seems to be the cloud of smoke is hanging around there unless someone else has actually had a moment.
Well, that makes me think it's much more likely to be oil smoke than tyre smoke if it's hanging around. Driver out and away, Amro Al-Hamed, who bailed out. Now the car is a very, very long way off, and there is an access point where Amro is standing, which is in the straight ahead position. Lots of runoff at turn 10. It's one of the fastest areas of the circuit before one of the slowest corners
bank corner
on the circuit.
Yeah. Now the key issue here is not just getting the car to a place of safety. It's certainly not somewhere where it's going to be easy to push it there. It's how safe is it to get an intervention vehicle to that point, because it's got to cross the track.
It's got to be double yellows at that point.
At the very least.
It's got to be double yellows at that point.
Now, the other question, of course, is does it need a clean-up, in which case we'll definitely be going to code 60. I'm just keeping an eye on the flag point at the moment.
Well, also, who's due a pit stop? Who could benefit from this? You know, we're got
not
people
close enough yet, are we?
Well, there's one or two people who've had 40 minutes there. The Giudetta, John Corbett's been out there for 40 minutes.
Intervention vehicle is with the car, John.
Let me have a look. And
it's one of the Nissans, I think, isn't it?
And he's one of the white car pickup trucks, which is reversing cautiously towards that CN Wolf. Now, have we... Sorry, Graham. What I need to see is what's going on further back down the track with double yellows at the Marshall's point before that. What I'm not seeing, in all honesty, are any slippery surface flags, but I can't see the next Marshall point back because it's on the other side of the circuit and it's over one of the areas that is out of my view. Of all intervention vision, just on the cut through.
54 car being
that's the number 8. That's another new one. Tick that one off.
Absolutely. The
so we've had 5, 7 and 8 on the red and white cars.
54 car is in the pits. Now they surely will not be able to go from here.
Just at the cutout that would bring you round, Graham, to turn 14, there's an intervention vehicle there behind the NGK spark plug signs, and there's a yellow overalled marshal with a helmet on who is... Now what's he doing? Is he looking potentially at something on the track?
It might be. There was a report earlier of debris. I wonder if they're going to take the opportunity at the moment to remove some debris as well, and it was at that point. It was off track, I believe, coming into that turn. So they're clearly, and particularly as it gets to darkness, debris you can't see becomes a rather bigger problem.
Great.
So the 46 is now going to be under tow. Driver is back aboard the car, but I think we're pretty clear that car is going to go no further.
It's a quick right U-turn and behind the wall, surely. Are my eyes deceiving me there, or was there a rather large pool of something.
It's quite possible. What I would say is
the Wolf.
none of the other remaining runners are lost out the circuit. They're all accounted for. The number 54 car has been in, has stopped for a short stop, gets underway.
Really good use of double yellows, and might I say as well, from the drivers, well done for respecting those double yellows. They are really slowing down. There's an exit point where that pickup truck is heading. They're going to park it in the corner. Oh no, there is an exit point. There we go. Yeah. And one of our marshals just going to pop the gate open so that the Nissan Navara can drive through. The whole fleet of those, which looked pretty brand new when I turned up here on Monday afternoon. First time that we've seen them in action earlier on today. We had some Ford F-150s beforehand, but this new fleet of Nissan intervention vehicles being used to tow, and they've also got fire suppression equipment.
Yellow flag at turn 10 being shown now, and that will be, I think that's clear up. That yellow flag has been withdrawn.
Yes, it has.
I think that's debris. I think that's them doing a little bit of clean up.
Well, very well done again, and exemplary by the drivers as well as our race control. And
excellent stuff.
I know I've said this before, and I know I've upset people by saying this before, but we wouldn't have to have slow zones and so many full course cautions if drivers respected double yellows, and they were perfectly respected there. It can be done.
Back to on-track action, and yellow flags now withdrawn with the stricken car behind the barriers. And the next bit of action we'll be looking for is for second position. We're looking at the moment James Corbett. He's in fourth position, but about 33 seconds ahead of him on the road is a battle for second position as the Graf Racing P3 Ligier is attempting to fend off the ever closer attentions of Brandon Godovic.
This from Cam Walsh. She says, funny how I started listening to the race in total darkness and now the sun's breaking through the windows exactly as the sun sets in Dubai. And Sean Randall says, wonder if I can get out of my 2016 review if I tell the boss I'm too busy listening to RLM and live racing.
Give it a crack, and we'll help you find another job. No problem.
Interesting way to put in your resignation.
Absolutely.
I would have thought, Sean, if I'm honest. Good effort though. Good effort.
Second place has changed hands as they cross the line for the start of their lap 45. Well, that leaves us with now the top three. It's two Ginettas. It's Ewan McCann, the 51 Century Motorsport car from the 55 Brandon Godovic at the wheel of the CWS, the Colin White Ginetta. He's just taken second position overall from the Graf Racing Ligier, number 12, the winner of the first race. And those two cars 36 and 37 seconds respectively behind the overall leader, with fourth place James Corbett a further, well, 35 seconds back in fourth position, third in G57 class.
Good out of Joe Bradley in the pit lane, Joe.
Another first in my Creventic career. The 54 car came in. Now the 54 car, I know we've had a bit of a driver swapping around, but the 54 car at the moment has got James French at the wheel. He's brought the car in because something has shifted in the seat and has squashed something pretty important to James. So they've come in and rejiggled the seat, and he's been able to go back out. So good news for James, I think, and his future.
That would be the seat insert that was removed to deal with the power steering issue, so clearly wasn't seated properly. No pun intended at all. So the angle of the dangle, by the sound of it, was wrong there.
Stop it. An hour and 17 minutes still to go. And in 40 seconds' time, it will be officially sunset here. And it's already into the gloaming. And it's also the time we've got to be careful because we've got a very busy road here, the 44, that runs parallel to the back of the circuit. And it's very easy to look down there and see yellow flashing lights, think we've got an intervention vehicle, and we've been caught out by this every year.
Every single time.
And it's, in fact, slow-moving traffic or a recovery vehicle or a bin motor or something.
We've got a new hazard we need to deal with this year on that front, John, because what I was about to say, just as that drama happened and we got that long shot, was that the Airbus has actually got navigation lights.
Oh, you're kidding me.
It almost certainly has. It's got a flashing light on the top.
Where am I looking? Oh yes, there I am. You're absolutely right, Grim. Yeah, that whole new facility over there that the Airbus is part of. It's an A380, which is the double-deck super jumbo type machine in full Emirates colours. That is on it's a frame, a metal frame that is covered in flowers.
I've flown on things that actually looks less sturdy than that. And we're about to see it here. If you were watching the pictures there was just a panning shot that just stopped short. But meantime, we've got a couple of battling Ginettas on track, and I'm not sure, don't think this is for position. That's the 52, which is James Corbett in 4th position. The 56, Rick Breukers, is a little way further down the field, but lapping quickly. 6 laps back, Rick Breukers. He's actually last runner now, 11th position after that early issue for the car. Another fast lap for Frédéric de la Roche, if it is him in the EDEC Sport car. Well, he has been quick, and he's got that down to a 2:01.5 in that car. So, Ewan Mackay, 37 seconds to the good, and pulling away a little from Brandon Godovic. That is the 1-2. The Graf Ligier, hour and 15 minutes to go, holding a solid 3rd place at the moment. James Corbett will be just nibbling away at that gap. John Corbett. Did I say James again? John Corbett. I do apologise. He's done a stout job, actually. He's done great. He's done great. This is the driver we heard earlier from James Winslow that James has been, that's why I keep saying James, isn't it? Has been coaching for some years now in Radicals and taking a step up onto the international level. Well, he's been very sensible, done some regional series in Australasia, which is his home, and then come across to Europe to do the European Masters. This is a logical step, is to move up into something like this. Gives him a really good yardstick, doesn't it? Yeah. And I'm sure he'll have been enjoying his weekend. Rick Breukers, by the way. Look at the sparks coming from here if you're looking on the stream. And that's Rick, a little bit of a... Well, I think there. I think Rick is in every race this weekend because he's got a TCR drive and he's in the 24. He's clearly done his homework then this year, because you recall when Rick first drove here, his dad basically said on air that he would let him back in a race car if he did his schoolwork properly. Extraordinarily talented young man, and seems to be able to mix his racing without any issues whatsoever. It's a very valuable skill to have in motorsports. Oh, we're starting to see glowing brake discs, brake rotors for those of you in the States. So if you're not on the stream now, is a good time to get to it. Very seldom do I see it tune away from our audio feed, and I understand that there'll be some of you that don't have the bandwidth, or perhaps are out on some kind of travelling at the moment where listening is far better than watching. Or doing job interviews. Don't do it during the job interview. Should just say that very clearly. That would definitely count against you. If you can let us know if you're at a job interview, Jack Solowski, and we need to say something nice about you, just put it in front of whoever's interviewing you, and drop us a note, and we'll give you an on-air reference. That would be really good. Dare you do that? that would be gutsy, it has to be said. Yeah. As Rick Breukers comes through with still more trailing sparks behind that car, and clearly turn one in big enough for the both of those two cars. Absolutely as they head down. For those of you followers of the Mail Brothers, very 1980s reference there. So it's really now a matter of running this to the next stage of the pit stops. Nobody can go to the end from here. No, after that it's just about beat the clock. Very good. Very good. So about to hit the 50 lap mark for the leader. And again, it's been a race
He's just gone through, Graham, underneath us. That was the rumble of the Century Motorsport Ginetta with the General Motors V8.
Yeah, completing 49 laps there for Ewan Mackay, and about to see Brandon Godovic do the same. And can he take some time out this time, because Ewan Mackay is pulling away at the moment in the lead. And the answer is no. Godovic falling back a little more. So Ewan Mackay doing a fine job at the moment in the lead of the race. 11 minutes to go till the final hour.
Oh, sorry, Graham. Graf Racing going to come away with some fairly important comparative data between their two cars. Let's head to the pit lane. Joe Bradley starting. Well, sun went down about 10 minutes ago, and it gets dark very quickly. Is there a comparatively as quick drop in temperature, Joe?
Under the rear balcony, and you guys will feel it straight away. It's a beautiful, beautiful night. I have.
That's rather scary, frankly.
73 FA Cup final shorts.
Say again, Joe?
Still wearing the 1973 FA Cup final shorts.
Knees going bluer by the moment, I've no doubt.
That's not his knees, that's the worrying bit. Mackay's gone through. We're still waiting for Godovic in second position. And Godovic then
beginning to lose touch here.
Yeah.
And that's because it's been good pace being shown by Ewan Mackay. I wonder whether or not, with the heats going out of the day here, it's not working to their advantage. We're about 10 minutes from when I think we're going to start to see, John, the final routine pit stops here. Maybe a little earlier than that. So, of course, these cars we believe can go around an hour, but with the 6 minutes 40 pit stops, you can split that either side of that hour, of course. Rick Breukers trying to attack this race. And looking at the moment for where we're going to see the battles emerging. Nico Prunk, by the way, in the second of the P3 cars. 32 seconds back from John Corbett. Now, are we going to see Peter Cox back in that car for the final stint? I think we are.
I think we are. I think we set Peter Cox to stun.
Yep, at least.
Mildly abrasive, then.
I think more than just stun. I think it might be, you know, super stun. It's the wily old Cox. I think we're going to have to call him that every single time now.
Wily old Cox.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
41 seconds the gap now.
Nearly 42, Graham. Two G57s at 42 seconds. Then the first of the P3 cars is the number 12, the red, white and blue Graf car, with Edward Lewis-Browner in the driver's seat. He has got exactly 30 seconds back to John Corbett in the Simpson Motorsport third of the G57s. Then it's Nico Pronk for Cox Racing in the second of the P3 cars at 30 seconds, near enough, a little bit more than that actually. Best of the CN cars is the EDEC Sports Ligier. Frederic de la Rocha at the wheel of that car and lapping very competitively at just on 2 minutes and 2 seconds, just a little bit under that. Behind, now where's the second CN car?
Second CN car
is the EUH Motorsport
car, so in a podium position, and will, if it gets to the end here, will be on another podium.
Yeah,
because the 46 car is now a retirement, or it's, well, apologies, the 46 car is due back in the paddock.
It's the 60% rule, by the way, to be classified at the end of the race. 3/4 dark now. Plenty of light on the start-finish line. but not at other parts of the circuit.
And indeed, with the rise and fall of this circuit, there are parts where the shadow, as I say that, by the way, the wolf appears on the back of a flatbed.
Exactly what I was going to say.
I think it's taken a long time to get there, but it has now made it back to the paddock.
Anytime you're on the outside of the circuit, the guys don't want to come back across. They go round the outside of the circuit and come back in through the entrance under the tunnel.
Yep.
And that's exactly what's happened the way we drive in the Porsche Cayenne in the morning. The ATEC DXB Ginetta is 6th in class and 10th overall. And that at the moment has still got Rick Breukers on board, and he's not hanging around.
There's a bit of a lock-up, I think, from Rick there. He isn't hanging around, he's pushing and pushing very hard.
Been in there 42 minutes.
Well, he's got a target in mind, and that is James French ahead. Is 46.9 seconds is the gap. Always a good thing to have a target to aim for, isn't it?
It's nip and tuck between those two chargers.
Yeah, they're going to be looking to see what they can do about coming back through the overall field here, of course.
Yeah, much quicker than the CN car ahead of them, as you would expect. Some
12 seconds of that quicker.
Yes, yeah, indeed. So those gaps come down very quickly at that point.
But they're due in the pits before he is.
That's a fair point too.
If indeed they're on the same sort of pit stop cycle.
Well, James French has been out some 6-7 minutes. Well, 6 minutes exactly, actually.
Well, actually, the stint time against the 81 car is shown as 5 minutes, nearly 6 minutes. So no.
That car's been in relatively recently. I think that car's going to the end.
And the 57 car, by the way, rolls down pit lane now. So this will be the final stop for that car. Mike Simpson will get in for an attack to the finish then.
I think that AUH car is going to the end from here, whereas I do think the E-Deck Sport car's got one more stop.
And by the way, that is not Mike Simpson getting in the car. Mike Simpson's helmet is white with an English flag on it.
It wouldn't be Mike Simpson in the 12 car.
The 12 car, sorry, I thought...
I did exactly the same yesterday.
I do apologise, listeners and viewers.
Yesterday. If that was Edward Lewis Browner getting out, I think it'll be Frank Mattelli who finishes it
we've
off.
not seen Frank in the car so far, so my apologies for that. Misidentified the car. 52, by the way, comes in to the pits from Corbett from 4th position. There's a driver change underway for that car too.
I'll be guided by Joe Bradley if he's anywhere near as to which driver that got in to that 12 car. Sebastian clearly there.
Now, what we don't know is who is that James Winslow getting back in the car. It might very well be
into
the 52.
Right.
So John Corbett getting out. 54 now in pits as well. That is James French in the Optimum car. And no driver ready to get aboard that car, so it might well be that James is going to go to the end, so we may not be seeing Bradley Ellis in the car today. No, but no, James is getting out the car. No major hurry here, of course. So James French walks away.
Century Motorsport leading at the moment.
Waiting for a driver to get to that car.
Is this what am I supposed to be down there now? Is this the bit that I didn't get the memo for?
Be amusing if Nick Minassian turned up, wouldn't it?
I've had a couple of reports that Nick is here.
He is here. He is here.
Are we expecting to see him in the 24 hours at the weekend?
I'm not sure. He was here with his race suit in hand. Out comes a driver towards that car. Now, is that Dr. Drift? We'll see as he turns around. That looks like Bradley Ellis to me. It is Bradley Ellis is going to get in the car.
The twisted overalls. With what appears to be a miner's lamp on his driving helmet, which is nice.
Just come back from the quarry.
Mackay Brothers leading for Century Motorsport, former legend drivers, the pair of them. And Paul Grogan has let us know that Rick Breukers' first time in a G57 was at Estoril where he drove that Century Motorsport car.
Did he, though?
The responsible adult has been trawling social media and fires that in from wherever she is perched in the wide world of motorsport and the web.
Chasing the leading car, by the way, fastest lap of its race goes to the number 55 car, Brendan Godovic, as he comes into the pits on the next lap. And also, this time I can confidently say that the 57 car is ahead of him, not the 12. So let's wait and see. Is Mike Simpson about to leap aboard the car like the young gazelle he is?
Joe Bradley says?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
And Colin White will be the lookout for him. So, ladies and gentlemen, stand back from the barriers. Colin Sideways White is about to take part in this, the third of our 3 races.
Thank you, Joe.
So into the final hour of Pro Start racing for the week's action in 10 seconds. So an hour and 10 seconds. Glorious cityscape views on the video stream at the moment.
Now that is looking back towards turn 1 over the top of turn 14, and that tower in the background is over the turn 1 grandstand, and that has, along with the turn 1 grandstand complex, and it is a complex, it looks like something out of a Thunderbirds or Marineville Stingray, very sort of Jerry Anderson. That has just passed into new hands and is undergoing an internal refurb. And I hear that within the next 18 months it is partially occupied at the moment, the bottom part of that. There's a fitness area in there, for example, but that should be ready within the next 18 months to do a myriad of things. I believe there's some hotel accommodation going into that tower.
Wow.
A brand new hotel being built just on the final corner, overlooking the final corner, with an open-air restaurant and a terrace.
Comes all the way down, doesn't it, to the end of the grandstand, the new complex,
just
outside
to
of the
our
circuit,
right.
Motorsport themed hotel.
That will be open in about 9 to 10 months,
Yep.
I'm hearing. And there's been a bit of a clearance of some partially built buildings over by turn 12 on the outside of the circuit back towards the highway, and that it has now that site is now being cleared, ready for some building there. There's a real sense, Graham, isn't there, around this part of the UAE of things picking up again. We'll talk about that in a moment as we go back down to Joe Bradley.
You remember I mentioned about the lack of fuel in the fuel tank station. It's happened to this man here, Khaled Al-Mudaf, who is actually from Kuwait. That's hilarious.
It's hilarious. How ironic. We have 20% of the oil supply and the gas pump finishes on me, but we lost 4.5 minutes. I'm going to try to get it back, but it's funny, man, how we're in the Middle East and we run out of gas.
I must say that did cross my mind. Tell me, so what were you met with? You pulled into the fuel station, and what did they say?
They were taking longer than normal. Then the French mechanics were just talking to each other. I'm like, something's not right here, you know what I mean? I pull out, I reset the fuel. I felt the car still light, you know what I mean? 2 laps in, I'm like, wow, the car's light. Then I get the radio message like, you only got 20 liters. So come back, get your 80 to do your full stint. So we came back, lost 4.5. The pump was just ran out, as simple as.
As long as it didn't happen in a championship, eh, Khaled?
Exactly.
This is your first run in that 57 car?
Yes, my first run. I love the car. It's really nice to drive. It's more like a P2 car than a P3. It's just like on rails. I didn't get any practice or quali. I got my race. I got my drive in the race, so it was good fun. It was good fun.
Thanks for that, because that's a first for me. And I'm sure someone from Kuwait running out of fuel has got to be a first.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just look at the car in the background there as well. Did you see what the car in the background was?
Is that the TCR Audi?
It was a TCR Audi as well.
At least two and possibly three of them here. Peter Cox's car in the hands of Nico Pronk is on pit road, so Peter will be reinstalled in the car after that fantastic run at the start of the race. Ewan Mackay, meanwhile, still owes us his second stop.
And it will be the final stop from here.
Yeah, 56 minutes to go.
Just a quick point about Carlo Gelman-Half, by the way. A massive collectivista. He is one of the collective and listens to IMSA Radio a lot. Was having a chat with him down by that Ginetto, showing me around it in the cockpit of that car on Tuesday.
Yep, I was standing with you while he did it. Yes, indeed.
And very complimentary about the team's work. Colin, thank you very much for your support when you're not in the car, and good to see the collective not just listening to motorsport but being involved as well. We like to talk about pure motorsport here at Radio Show Limited, and a perfect example there. Our listeners are also doers as well as listeners, and we have a huge amount of support from various motorsport communities around the world, including the Marshals, and the Marshals have done a cracking job already this weekend. It's a very long meeting for the ladies and gentlemen in orange, as well as our very hard-working and efficient rescue and recovery crew. So a word for them now.
Yeah, absolutely, and a huge amount of track time already this week. Way before we get to the point where we've got a 24-hour race to play with. So it is a very hard-working week. If you're here and around the circuit, do show them your appreciation when you see them.
And rotations asking if they're building anything in the gap between the car 4 and the kart circuit. There's a big, what looks like a car park there now, which is going to be some apartments. Motor City is being expanded almost as you watch it. There's 2 or 3 new apartment buildings going up. There's a golf course a little bit.
There's restaurants that weren't here last year sitting behind us.
There's restaurants that weren't here in December when I was last here, mate. To be honest, not quite that quick. But this is certainly an area of the town by the circuit that is an up-and-coming area, and the centre of Dubai, no longer just down originally by the original Burj, and then it sort of moved down the coast towards the marina and the Burj Khalifa, and it's now spreading outwards from that down the creek, past Festival City and towards Motor City as well.
We've got 2 more cars, John, that owe us, I believe, at least a routine stop. That is the lead car, the number 51 car, Ewan Mackay at the wheel of the Century Motorsport Ginetta. The 51 car now has a 3-lap gap, but owes us that 6 minutes and 40-second pit stop. The other car that I think owes us a stop is the 56 car, Rick Broikers, the 56 car. They had an early problem in that car, so he's been on a fight back in it, still lapping very quickly, but has been in the car for 54, almost 55 minutes now. It has stopped twice, but the first of those stops, I'm pretty confident, was not one of the regulation stops. So we're not very far away from a point where this will be a battle on pure time on the timing screens. There are some larger gaps appearing because, of course, it's a mixed class race. But I think we're going to get to the stage where we've got a real indication of exactly where things stand. We've got Colin White on his outlap, got the EDEX Sports CN car in the midst of a pit stop, Nico Pronk, but I'm sure that will be Peter Cox, and the fuel station right now, and 2 Ginettas still due to meet us down pit road at some point.
It's going to be a heck of a battle in the last 40 minutes.
We're going to see either way whether or not we've got battles for absolute position. We've got some of the quick guys coming out. Mike Simpson emerging in the Graf Racing car, just loses his position as he comes out to Rick Broikers. But Rick, as we say, will be due another stop. But I think what we're going to see here is some very quick lappery in the dark indeed. 53 minutes to go. 59 laps in the book for the race leader.
This is good running by Ewan Mackay.
It's pretty
very
great.
Consistent. Last lap of 56.7 against the car's best of a 55.2. Generally speaking, this has not been as quick as the second 3-hour race.
No, but what we've seen from the Mackays is a really good, fast, conservative run throughout the 3 hours. They've learned things from the previous 2 3-hour races here. They've decided this is the correct strategy. It's working for them at the moment. What remains to be seen is exactly where do they come out, in particular against the P3 cars after this next pit stop. Now, they are one car that has to have a 6-minute 40 stop because they've only stopped once so far. So they've run to the correct strategy. Go a little longer, of course, because of that code 60.
Look at that. Sorry, very bad for those of you who can't see that. The camera pointing back from one of the darker areas of the circuit to the fully lit paddock and grandstand. The Graf car out in the darkness in its tricolor colours heading towards turn 8 and 9. In 9 now. And our camera operator is doing a cracking job in the darkness, and it is very dark over there, to pick out the cars and hold the focus down the long straight. And then heavy braking for turn 10 for this Graf car, the number 12, second place for Frank behind the wheel, and he's certainly impressed me.
He was great yesterday.
Frank Martelli.
He played, I thought, a blinding job yesterday in the first race. Ran exactly where he needed to run, defended where he needed to defend, just kept the gap he needed at the end of that race. That's what run the race. In comes the number 51 car, leader in the pits now, 59. It'll be 60 laps as they cross the line. The Graf car, meanwhile, is
leader
about,
in the pits.
Yeah,
Leader
indeed,
is in the pits.
Yeah, and it's just about to complete the 57th lap, so 3 laps. Meantime, as we say, that fastest lap of the race goes to the 54 car in the hands now of Bradley Ellis. 1:53.942 for Brad. And his next target is on pit road. It's the EDEX Sport car. The EDEX Sport car, by the way, is in trouble. It's been on pit road for 10 minutes.
And that was the car...
That was the leader in CN.
Again, the leader.
So the little Radical that's already got 2 podiums is now leading the race in CN.
Well, well, well.
And the little AUH Radical is 6th overall now. Being closed down rapidly by a couple of Ginettas behind.
Frank Martelli, by the way, that we were talking about early on, relatively young French driver, 25, from Bastia, and done a lot of karting in his background. A bit of V2V.
As a lot of these guys have.
Yeah, and some Euro Cup 1.6 racing, as well as the Formula Academy racing in 2010 and 29. But the rest of it is karting. And, well, Frank, I tell you, you have got a future in endurance racing the way he's taken to these cars. And interesting to see drivers at that age thinking, do you know what? It's got to be endurance racing for me. It's becoming more and more of a credible...
There's so many more options, John.
Credible choice. It's a full moon tonight here in the Middle East. So if you're looking out on the big disc in the sky, we're doing the same thing here at the moment, where the local time is 6:15, just after. At midnight local time, that's 8 in the UK. It is Midweek Motorsport, the start of a brand new series. 2017 is Series 12, would you believe, of our magazine show. 2 hours of, well, I'm not sure what you're going to get tonight, to be honest, because we'll have been to the barbecue.
Aha.
And that might make things interesting. We do have the first broadcast interview with brand new Bentley boy, Ollie Jarvis.
Indeed.
And Graham, I know you spoke to him on the phone early this week. I spoke to him last Saturday, and he is he's really excited.
Oh, he's up for the challenge.
Worth a listen. Worth a listen. We'll
Very
talk
much
about
so.
the new challenge with the Bentley GT3 car. We'll talk about Audi Sport, of course we have to, and we'll talk about the fact that Bathurst played a big part in his decision. The race here, though, still has 47.5 minutes to run, and the 54 car...
It's another fastest lap of the race. That's why we're looking at that car. Bradley Ellis is 1:53.5 now.
Is right-hand headlight is rattling all over the place, and at the moment it looks more like one of those lights in the sky outside of a movie premiere. It's not helping him at all. It's just the left-hand side headlight on the track, and that must be terribly off-putting for Bradley, because the light is on, but it is searching for helicopters at the moment.
Yes, at the moment, about to see a positional change, by the way, with Rick Breukers getting onto terms with the Radical.
And Joe Bradley is down in the pit lane.
Yeah, got a chance to grab a chat with Ewan Mackay, who's just handed over the number 51 Century Motorsport Ginetta to his brother Daniel. Ewan, it's still a beautiful weather. You had the romantic shift where you saw the sun come down during that stint. Tell us, did you have time to take any of that in?
Yeah, it was quite nice. The sun blocked me for a couple of laps, so I had to put the visor down, but vision stayed pretty fine for most of the run, and I settled into a rhythm pretty early. So when the sun dropped, it was easy just to keep going and keep going and keep going. And now we put ourselves P1 overall, so hopefully Danny can keep it there and bring it home nicely.
Yeah, it's nice to put the responsibility onto your brother, I suppose, is it?
But yeah, well, I finished yesterday in race 1, so it's only fitting that he should finish this race, and hopefully we can finish on the top step.
I suppose with your job done now, your reflections, your thoughts, it's been three-hour races, but we're about to go into a 12-hour series for these cars. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the 12-hour guys will have some fun, definitely. It's great fun out there. It's pretty brutal, especially in this heat, but I mean, I've had a great time. The guys at Century Motorsport have done a great job, and thanks to Jeanette as well for giving me this great car, and just thanks to everyone that was able to put me out here, and I've had a blast.
What's your plans for 17 then? You've been racing Radicals and such like, and here you are in the prototype series. Are we going to see you out in this series maybe?
I'm not sure. I've committed to the Car Cup again for 2017. I competed in that in 2016, so we're looking to get further to the front in that series. So hopefully some of you guys will see me on ITV and supporting the touring cars, and hopefully getting some more good results. Great stuff, great to see you. Ewan, job over. You handed it to him in the lead. That's you can't really do any more, can you? Yeah, no, I just got to keep the fingers crossed. The car's in good hands, so hopefully he can bring it home safe. Great stuff. Thanks, Ewan.
So the timing has... yes, because Ewan, of course, his driver ID hasn't tripped over to Daniel because he's the car is still in the fuel station. Mm-hmm. So Danny to bring the car home. And just coming up to 6 minutes, that car has been in the pit lane or taking on fuel, so he's got about another half a minute or so before that car is released.
Positional change though, and a significant one, John, because Peter Cox has just popped up in 3rd position, has taken the position on track,
and
from
he's
Colin
going
White.
to the end from here.
He most certainly is.
So is Colin White, so is Frank Martelli, and when Ewan's brother Danny gets back out onto the circuit, all of those top 4 cars will be headed to the end of the race without further interruption.
Now, if things are going swimmingly for the Century Motorsport car, that car should pop out onto track any moment now. The clock ticks over 6:40 for the pit stop. That is, so he should be heading back towards him. We should see the letter O. And we do, almost immediately.
6:45, good
wonderful stuff. So Danny Mackay we will see in just a few moments.
He's just lost the lead. He's just lost the lead to Frank Martelli, who's gone through to complete his 60th lap and will be in the early part of the lap at the moment.
Right, so we're going to see the real world gap at the end of this lap for Daniel Mackay. That is the important gap to look for, because that is going to be the lead Ginetta against the 2 P3 cars currently sitting on timing 2nd and 3rd, but in reality 1st and 3rd, with Martelli leading the race now from Daniel Mackay, with Peter Cox and with Colin White just having lost that
coming through any second now to complete his 60th lap. The leaders, the top 4 cars, Graham, have all completed 60 laps at the end of this one, and we have a proper race to the finish.
Absolutely right. It'd be 61 actually at the end of this lap for Daniel Mackay.
Yes,
but
60 for Coxey and Colin White.
Correct. But behind that, we've still got a chase underway. A further fastest lap of the race, by the way, for Bradley Ellis.
Hence the intake of breath from me. 53.2 in the darkness.
Absolutely. He's trying to chase down a couple of cars ahead. Mike Simpson, just as I speak, goes by the Radical and demotes the CN leader. And what I think is the last runner in CM, because the EDEX Sport Cart's still on pit lane now, 18 minutes on pit lane. So it's a Ginetta from 2 Ligiers. That will change.
It's the Ligier is going to come through any second now, Graham, with Metelli at the wheel. Frank Metelli will lead the motor race in the last 42.5 minutes. And there he goes now. That was the sound of the Graf Ligier going through underneath us and heading towards the first corner. How far back is Danny Mackay as the Century Motorsport G57 P2 is due through? I would say, I'm waiting for the rumble. Oh no, it's a little while longer than I thought.
It's a little way.
He's been out of the pits now 2 minutes and 5 seconds, getting up to speed. Here he comes, I can hear the rumble, and there he is. 29.3 seconds is the gap with 41 minutes and 42 seconds. Where is Peter Cox? He's a little further back. He's going to be about another 30 seconds back, I think, from these two. Pulling away, though, from Colin White in 4th.
And don't miss either, there's a cracking battle underway at the moment for 6th position overall, and that's 4th in G57. Rick Broyker trying to fend off the ever closer attentions of Mike Simpson. That's the 56 ATEC DXB car from the 57 Graf car. It's just a smidge under 4 seconds now.
But they're off the lead lap, Graham. Just the top 4. It's Jamie Winslow in the Simpson Motorsport machine, who is the first car off the lead lap.
And
in for the 54. Okay,
that's Bradley Ellis.
Bradley Ellis.
That's early. That's early. Brad's not been out there that long.
Right. Well, they're out of it anyway at the moment. As Metelli goes through, then leading the motor racing, completing lap number 61. 29 seconds it was last time around. But just before Danny Mackay was on his out lap from his final pit stop.
And realistically, Peter Cox is a further minute back from that second place car. So Danny Mackay, we're about to see what kind of pace he's got under the car, and the answer is. That's the Graf car through.
Well, when Metelli needed to do it, Frank Metelli, the French driver, the fastest lap of that car's race.
1:57.4.
Yep. Now that is exactly what that Ligier needs to do if it's going to hold off the attentions of Century Motorsport.
It needs to do it, needs to keep doing it, because there's more pace available if Danny Mackay can squeeze it out of the car.
And here comes Mackay, I think. That sounds like it to me. 33 seconds, yeah.
2:01.
He's lost 4 seconds on that lap, but he's just getting to work at the moment. Peter Cox will be the next of the prototypes through in terms of the timing and scoring monitor, and he's pulled 7 seconds out of Colin White in the last couple of laps.
Meantime, Rick Broykers is going to have to pit pretty soon.
81, the White Radical is leading in the CN category. That's the AUH Motorsports. Now this, remember, was the car that went tactical earlier on, because the idea was to put Tariq El-Gamal in the car, local driver, because he knows this circuit in the dark.
Now, did they take a full pit stop at that point? Because if they could be doing this to the point where they just need a splash, and they're fixing that headlamp on the 54 car. That's the problem.
I'm not surprised. They may have actually been called in for that. That might have been a black and orange from the organisers. I didn't see it on the screen, but certainly Bradley Ellis not seeming to be disadvantaged, as his lap times were superb, but distracting for him, and potentially, I would have thought, for other people, Graham.
Yeah, I think that may well be part of it.
That's an HID, high intensity discharge unit, that is being secured in the headlamp aperture there. LED lights will be the next thing that we'll see. You can already get LED light bars. Indeed, I raced a MG with one of those on. Unbelievable.
Next time around, it's another 57 for the message that this is
57.342. He's bettered his own lap time by a couple of ticks.
Now, what can Daniel Mackay do in response? If the answer is that he's losing time here, then it's going to be more about defending his second place from Peter Cox. It's a 2 minutes point 3. That's not quick enough.
But it's quicker than he was last time around by a full second and a half. So don't forget, he's got a very heavy car, and Mattelli has been out there 22 minutes.
Running out of time, though, John, to close this gap.
Oh, that is in fact an LED unit, by the look of it, in that Optimum Ginetta. Very nice.
Boys working through the problem of how to secure that.
Looks very much like one of my Clearwater units that Rule Centre fitted to my BMW. Very nice piece of kit indeed. Using that inside the headlamp fairing. Take very little drain in terms... Yeah, get tyre wraps out.
Yeah, tyre wraps.
Very little drain in terms of current and great amount of light. Joe Bradley is down in the pit lane. Are you down at Optimum, Joe?
Yes, wherever you see Sebastian's camera, I'm right behind him. And I confirm that the car was brought in by the organisers for this headlamp issue. And as you can see, some good desert, quite literally, desert tactics going on there with cable ties, keeping it intact.
Any second now they're going to stick that red battery-powered LED torch in instead and just leave that on there.
I think they need a gynecologist for this, though, because it's really, really hard to get to. It's really hard to get to, and that's the problem, really. Plus, right now, the lamp might be fixed, but it's certainly not pointing forward. He's going to be able to see who's in the crowd, because that right now, that headlight is pointing pretty much off to the right. So whether it's going to satisfy the organisers, though, or whether it's going to help Bradley Ellis in any way, I doubt very much, because it is off pretty much a 45, 50-degree angle to the right.
Bradley's getting out of the car.
Yeah.
He's getting out of the car. I think he's just overheated in there. He's absolutely...
That's their Bradley, not our Bradley, that's getting out of the car.
I'm already out of the car.
Yes.
Let's find out what the... Now, he's been working very hard. It is... You guys were asking about the weather. It's still very warm here. Let's get the microphone on him. Bradley, you've jumped out the car after all that time sitting there.
Yeah, no, they were trying to fix it, but the bracket's broken, so I've got no visibility in the right-hand side, and there's majority corners are right-handers. It was all guesswork. Last 2 or 3 laps I did, I was just guessing turning points. So it was just like trying to feel like, oh, there's a bump, I'll turn now, and as it was getting darker, it was just getting a bit more unsafe. So came in, tried to fix the light, but apparently what had happened was the actual bracket had broken and snapped, so I don't think they've got a spare one right now to put on it. So I think that we could be calling it a day. Otherwise, I think it just could be dangerous to go and do some laps without any headlights at night. So
yeah, I had made the comment that the light will shine, it'll satisfy the organisers, but it's not going to assist you in any way. It was pointing off to the right, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had one that was pointing too far to the right, and the other one was pointing too far up, so I had no visibility directly in front, so it wasn't great.
Bad luck, man. Bad luck.
No worries. Thank you.
Well, he didn't do a bad job of guesswork with 2 fastest laps almost in succession,
Absolutely.
did he? So well done, but hard luck to Bradley Ellis and to the Optimum Motorsport crew. Don't add a second win to the one they got earlier today. At the moment, that's the car that looks likely to get a second win is the Graf Racing number 12 Ligier P3 because a further 157 against a 159. The times are coming down for Daniel Mackay, but not quickly enough, and the gap is going out. 39 seconds now is the lead gap. Number 12 Graf Ligier from the number 51 Century Ginetta. And Peter Cox is still making inroads into the Ginetta ahead in the second of the Ligiers, but a little way back. Over half an hour to go, though. So still potential for things to change here. Colin White, meanwhile, in the 201s, he's got about a minute and 12 seconds ahead of a charging James Winslow.
Question, which I don't know the answer to, hence I'm putting it out there. The lightning pods on the G57, do we know what they are from? The LMP3 were from a Seat, I think.
The original ones were from a Seat. I think they changed them. I think they changed them on the P3 car as well.
Suggestion that they might be from a Scania.
It wouldn't remotely surprise me.
Very clever use of those pods. LED lighting will, in the same way as HID lighting transformed racing cars and meant that you had far less weight in the front end of the cars, in the nose of the cars, less to go wrong as well, really. The new advances in LED lighting technology for car bulbs are also going to change things, and we've got laser lights as well. Let's not forget, I know in the road going Audi A4 that we have, which has adaptive LED lighting, it's like a sonne lumiere in terms of how entertaining it is to watch it shuffling across the road and dimming itself when something comes the other way, or shining either side of the cars in front of you when you stick it on automatic. And that technology was debuted, of course, in Audi racing cars. Another part of the racing dividend is the Optimum Motorsport number 54 G57. I'm afraid is taking the long, lonely, mechanic-powered push backwards down the pit lane, and that will go into retirement for the final time this weekend.
That's a shame. Great run from Bradley, spoiled by, well, it's again, you know what, we talk about it, don't we, a 50 pence piece.
Well, yeah. A bit more than that, but
50,
yes,
yeah.
you're right.
It's one of those small parts that can make a big difference, and it stopped that car because he simply can't see.
And more importantly, I think it was probably very distracting for anyone else out there.
While we're watching that, by the way, there has been a change in position. Mike Simpson has got ahead of Rick Breukers and up into 6th position overall.
31 minutes to go. The gap at the front of the field is 40 seconds. Mattelli doing a fabulous job, and for the last 5 or 6 laps, Graham, has never been much more than a half or 3/4 of a second away from the car's best lap of the race. And now Danny Mackay is getting into his stride as the fuel burns off in the Century Motorsport Ginetta G57 P2, a 58.6 last time around. He's not yet bettered the car ahead of him, but he's getting closer to it, and it's going to be a very exciting last half hour.
Well, if he manages to actually get to the last lap, just half a second difference between the two. But Danny Mackay is being caught by Peter Cox. It's 41 seconds is the gap
you
there.
are so right.
So what we've got here is, if Danny Mackay can improve his times, he could start to put the leader under pressure. But equally well, he's still under pressure from a charging Peter Cox with absolutely exactly half an hour to go. The leading trio separated by 80 seconds.
Just looking to see whether James Winslow is closing in on Colin White. He is.
Maybe not quite quick enough, but it's about 3 to 4 seconds a lap with half an hour to go.
He's the first car off the lead lap, James, that is, I'm talking about, in the 52 Simpson Motorsport car, as into the pit lane.
That's Rick Breukers is arriving on pit lane for what we believe will be the final predicted routine stop.
95 seconds, James Winslow to Colin White. I think that might be just a bit too much for him in the last half hour.
This is fuel
but
only.
It's going to be close.
Fuel only for Rick Breukers.
Yeah. So, next lap around, and is that a 50?
It's a 58.1
and a 58.8.
But it's a 58.8 the last time around for Daniel Mackay. We wait to see what he can squeeze up this time.
Seconds the last time they went across the line.
So 40.8 seconds the gap 1 to 2. It was 41 seconds the gap 2 to 3 last time around. But Peter Cox solidly in the 156s.
Quickest man on the circuit at the moment.
Absolutely.
Other than Mike Simpson, who's down in the 54s and is very close to the fastest lap of the race of that 57 car, and that is the fastest lap of the race.
53 is for Bradley Ellis.
Oh yes, sorry, I'm not looking far enough down. That's the car that's out at the moment. Yes, 53.2. Absolutely right. A couple of comments about the LED and laser lights. Rotation says they're great and bright, but they're nowhere near as cool as having rally lights strapped on the front of the car. And Rock Chalmers rightly says, yeah, but massive CB Oscars aren't very aero. I've got some Oscar Plus. I've got some CBA Oscar Plus now in my dad's garage, which I'm getting back shortly, and I can't decide which vehicle to put them on.
A potential a significant moment, as for the first time since the last routine stops, Daniel Mackay...
off the track.
Which was that car?
That is the 57 car. That's Mike Simpson. He's pushing hard.
But Daniel Mackay actually quicker last time around
turn 7
than the leader. So it's 40 seconds dead now is the lead.
Don't you take for granted the photovoltaic lighting on number side panels that we've had for many years on racing cars in the darkness when you see them without them?
That's another LED light that's coming astray.
Same one, right front. And that is rattling around. Yeah, I need to find a car that I can strap the Oscar Plus onto. The Oscar Plus was slightly different from the Oscar. They had a slightly flatter back so you could get them... I'll shut up now.
It's just building the audience by the thousand, isn't it? There you go. I can see those things on a Porsche 968 before too long, John.
I don't think Nick's TR4 AIRS, which I have to say, would be able to take the 100-watt Oscars. Oh, sorry, Dick, go ahead. You need to turn your mic on.
I already have the lighting bar on the front of the TR4A, combining an extra driving light and a fog light.
Yes, one of each.
But I have also, when it comes back from the tune-up, listen, so you'll be hearing about this all year, lucky listeners. I do have some nice LED lights to go and some new 7-inch standard round lights.
Oh, very good. Are you going to get a nice rally fog lamp pointing backwards as well?
I was thinking that might be quite a good idea.
Yes.
It's the right colour. It's the right colour blue, because the rally cars were TR4s, not 4As, but they were in the same light blue. And I'll stop being dull now.
Daniel Mackay, having taken a second out of the lead last time around, loses something similar this time around. So it's still 40.8 seconds. Peter Cox continues to close, down to about 37 seconds, the gap to third. Colin White dropping back, but not yet into the clutches of James Winslow, who's over a minute back in the number 52 car. So this order, not static, fairly fluid in terms of the times, but it's going in the wrong direction if you're looking for wheel-to-wheel action in the closing minutes.
I think I meant electrovoltaic rather than photovoltaic, by the way. But I knew what I meant, so that's fine. Midweek Motorsport this week could be very interesting indeed.
Or otherwise.
Because we are talking, what time is it back at home? 20 minutes to 3. So we're talking 5 hours and 20 minutes to that, and which will be starting just on midnight, so into the early part of Thursday morning here. It could be worth a tune in. So it's certainly worth a tune in, actually, for Ollie Jarvis.
Absolutely. So 24.5 minutes remain of this 3-hour race. It is 20 to 7 in the evening here at Dubai, the Dubai Autodrome, with full darkness. The motorway in full play, the floral A380 in splendid floodlit condition now, and
I thought it was an Emirates.
What did I say?
Well, you said floral.
Under 36 seconds back from the second placed Ginetta now is the charging Peter Cox, still in the 156s. We'll wait to see what Danny Mackay can produce on his lap 70. 158.8 for the leading car, Frank Bertelli in the Ligier P3, the Graf Racing car. It's a 2 minutes .778. I don't think he can respond to the charge of the P3 car ahead. And what we don't know, of course, is how much running Danny Mackay has done in full darkness, and that is a factor. Mike Simpson, meanwhile, in the 155s, catching James Winslow.
How far can that Ligier go on fuel?
An hour.
So we're all... it's tight.
It's within the range.
It's going to be spot on an hour by the time he gets round.
They've run exactly the race they ran in race 1, which has been untroubled, with the exception, I think, of a brief spin earlier on for the 12 car. But they took up the playbook they had for race 1. They're using it again here. Don't crash, don't hit anything, don't let anything break, and drive very fast. Always the best plan. And 42.7 seconds over the charging Daniel Mackay is the net result of that, with under 23 minutes to go now. And the question I've got at the moment is, how close can Peter Cox get? And the answer is, he's getting closer.
don't think he's got enough to win this.
I'm not so sure, John.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think he can make up 2 minutes?
He took out 4 seconds last. Peter, not to win. Sorry, for second place.
Right.
30 under 32 seconds.
Which is why
there
I
was
said
the gap.
to win.
Go apologise. Not to win. No, but I think second place has got real potential here for the second of the Ligier P3 cars. 1:56.8 to a 2 minutes 0.7 to the second place car is another 4 seconds gone.
Number of people asking, can Peter Cox catch Danny McKay?
Yes, I think
he can't. It's going to be tight. It's 32 seconds between them at the moment, Graham. And 4 seconds is that? Yeah, 4 seconds last time round.
Indeed. But this time it's the Graf Racing car's turn to go over 2 minutes, and Danny Mackay into the 1:58s. So he's got the message. He needs to up the ante.
Very, very impressed by the Bastia resident, Frank Mattelli. Just had his birthday at the back
51
end of last year.
cars slow. 51 cars slow. Now what's happened there? We just got a shot of the car running slowly. He's going to back up to speed. But that would have done some damage in both battles. It will have hurt Danny Mackay's charge to the front. It will have hurt his defence from Peter Cox coming up behind from third.
Was that a spin and recover?
It could have been. I just saw the car running slowly.
Yeah, I think it was a spin and recover.
Now, in which case he's lost a chunk of time. How close is Peter Cox now? It did indeed. Spun at turn one and continued.
Oh, that's scary, spinning at turn one, because the wall is very close on the right-hand side as you go in, on the left-hand side as you go through the middle of it. Now, the other question for me is, has he flat-spotted his Hankook tyres?
And I think Peter Cox is in remarkably close contention now.
He's in the same sector of the track, certainly.
30 seconds at the line.
Leader's gone through. Frank Mattelli, what a great run it has been in each of the 3 races for the young Frenchman. 25, had his birthday at the start of November late last year, and clearly carving out, Graham, some sort of, are we seeing the early part of an endurance career for Frank Mattelli?
I think it's about 22 seconds now. Peter Cox back from Daniel Mackay.
30.1
at the line.
Oh, sorry, they haven't come back through again.
No,
yes, my
I think
apologies.
He's lost somewhere close to 10 seconds.
Yes, I probably agree with that. If you lose anything less than 10 seconds with a full spin. There goes Danny. That was the thundering Century Motorsport car.
Well, he lost 17 seconds to the leader.
Well, then it may be a wee bit more then. He did seem to be very slow getting away.
It is 13 seconds is the gap.
Wow. Now that's, you don't need to give any encouragement to Peter Cox when there's an extra podium overall up for grabs. Now, it's not going to make any difference at all in the P3, but in terms of overall, do you think it's meaningless to Peter Cox? Absolutely not. No way. It's going to chase them down. The last 19 minutes of the 9 hours of prototype racing that we've had already this week, and we head into the final stages, the closing laps of this extremely interesting format.
Absolutely right. And still the fastest car on circuit at the moment, by the way, is Mike Simpson in the Charging 57. Not going to get him a position unless things go awry for anybody ahead. But he is measuring his progress by the clock and not by race position at the moment.
I'm just keeping an eye as well on James Winslow. It was 91 seconds the last time that we looked at Colin White. Colin's gone through. This is for second position in G57 category and fourth position or overall. All rove is what I nearly said. My goodness, the clock will be just ticking so slowly, won't they, for the Graf team?
James Winslow coming through the final turn, I believe, as we speak.
You really hear the difference between the Ginetta's V8 and the least year's V8, don't you? What's that?
John, I've got some
So back up to speed for Danny Mackay into the 58. Well done to Danny Mackay. 1:58.9 for James Winslow puts him 55 seconds back, 54.2 seconds back, in fact, from Colin White.
Wow, so he's pulled that down. He's really pulled that down. He's pulled 30 odd seconds since I last noticed it. Let's go down to the pit lane. Some information on the Century Motorsport Ginetta. Joe Bradley.
Yeah, he's struggling with an intermittent power steering problem.
Oh,
I've seen that a lot, haven't we?
That's the third car to have hit some form of problem. As you say, the worst part of it, Joe, is the intermittentness of it.
The intermittentness.
The intermittentness is exactly the problem, guys. That's obviously caused the loop, an embarrassing loop.
Thanks, Joe. Now, they do have lit number squares on that car.
They do, and they've also got a problem with that right-hand headlamp as well.
Well, you know, it's still a relatively new project, the G57 P2.
And more to the point, has not done a lot of running at night.
No. You have headlights in the car, you put them on because you have to, or you flash them at people. But, you know, lining the headlights up and doing things, and I've got to say that headlight alignment wouldn't pass the MOT test in the UK for Danny at the moment.
Mike Simpson, meanwhile, puts in another fastest lap for the 57 Graf car. Not the fastest overall in the race. That still goes to Bradley Ellis and the now retired Optimum car.
And Mike Simpson, who is just going into turns 8 and 9 now, does not have the illuminated number panels on the side of that Ginetta. And he too has a right-hand headlight that is somewhat skew and whiff.
Yeah, methinks they're going to be putting in a few minutes in the drawing office for a bracket change for that particular component, because that does appear to be a problem. That's at least 3 of the cars with what looks like an identical issue. Actually, in some ways, that's preferable, isn't it, than
Yes.
lots and lots of different problems. There's one thing we know that doesn't work. Let's get that sorted, beef it up a bit.
1:54.095 by Mike Simpson last time around. It's not slowing it down,
absolutely
is it?
isn't. He is, though, unfortunately, but just under 3 laps off the lead. 74 laps in the book for the leader. That's Frank Martelli. 15 minutes to go. 1:58.2 for him last time around. 56.8 seconds is the gap. 10 seconds back, though, now. Peter Coxon still taking chunks of time, almost 2 seconds out of the second place Ginetta last time around.
And Colin White has responded to the James Winslow charge and actually was a little quicker than him last time around. What was 90 seconds has come down to under a minute, but Colin White just picking up the pace a little bit to 59.5 for Colin, 59.8 for James last time around. 55 and 52 cars, second and third in G57, that's 4th and 5th overall. Joe Bradley, how is the tension in the pit lane? The Graf car's just gone through, another 1:59.4. That's the slowest lap we've seen that car and Frank Martelli do for quite a while. They're just counting it down now, presumably, for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, this is the time of the race when you really don't want to think at all, because any sort of thoughts can hex things. Certainly interesting to see the team from Century who are getting on with the job. The Optimum guys obviously have put their car away, but right now the Martelli car leads. Mackay is coming under pressure from Cox. Thankfully, these two teams are one end of the pit lane away from each other, so there's nothing, there's no sort of tension between the two pit boxes. Ewan Mackay just watching his brother Daniel bring the car home and struggle with that problem, and I think fingers and toes crossed, just nonchalantly leaning on the sitting on the barrier on the pit wall with a cup of hot something, watching the timing screens and just seeing the gap between third and second ebb away by the looks of things. So hopefully that power steering problem isn't manifesting itself to be any worse.
He's doing a really good job of managing that if that is still continuing. Thanks, Joseph. Joe Bradley down the pit lane. Another fastest lap for Mike Simpson for that car, down under 1:54, 53.6 now for that car. So James Winslow is back again, taking time out of Colin White, 2 seconds or so that time around, and it's now down to 52 seconds. But time is not on the side of James Winslow, and I've got to say, Colin White is doing a great job. What he's not doing is taking any chances at all in traffic, but when he gets a clear lap, Graham, he's matching Winslow's time.
He's doing exactly that. He's running to the pace he needs to run to, and he can run to keep the position he's got. We have seen a positional change. The car, the number 81 Radical, and pulling away. That's good enough now for what is that 7th position,
and that's going to be a win and 2 podiums for AUH Motorsport, the local team.
Absolutely. If we were doing this on points across all the classes, they would be the winners of this meeting.
That's a fair point, well made, actually. Yeah.
And meantime, Peter Cox now closes just over 8 seconds back from the Century Motorsport car in the battle for 2nd position.
I'll say this, that I am impressed with this young Frenchman, Franck Martelly.
Absolutely right. He's run, I think, the perfect race again for Ligier, the Graf Racing team.
Is he the next great French endurance driver?
Could we see him in ELMS next season for this team? Wow. They've got LMP3 and LMP2 programs. Meantime, John, another 153 lap of the 153s for Mike Simpson. Not quite as quick as the one last time, but only by a handful of thousandths. A 153.759. What a shame he's not actually doing this in a battle for position, because he's chasing very hard, but he's only got that clock to beat. Peter Cox, by the way, has moved up to 2nd position. That's because I think Century Motorsport have had a spin on that lap. It's a 2:13 for Daniel Mackay. Peter Cox is through into 2nd position.
Yeah, and that was a 2:13, so another issue on that lap for Mackay and Danny Mackay. Now the question is, having said that Colin White has been picking his times up, now can Colin get a bit of a wiggle on and perhaps challenge with a problem with an ailing car ahead of him, albeit nearly a full lap ahead of him, Graham, with just 11 minutes to go, but losing 10-12 seconds in a lap, that's going to disappear like snow off a mountainside in the sunshine.
Well, we're presuming it's a spin. He's had 2 of those at 15 seconds a pop. He can't afford any more. The gap between the two is just over a minute. What we don't want is for Danny Mackay to actually have another one of those and hit something.
That's a good point.
Bring it home and bring it home safely. 10 minutes to go, and it's all of a sudden it's a Ligier P3 1-2.
Colin White now a minute and 3 seconds behind Mackay. Am I reading that right?
Correct.
Yeah, a minute and 3 seconds behind Mackay. So it is all going wrong for Century Motorsport literally in the last 45 minutes or so. Peter Cox is about to come through to end his 77th lap, which is what Franck Martelly is on now. It's just under 66 seconds, the gap between 1st and 2nd, but it didn't come down at all that time around. But then Mackay puts in a 59.1. I mean, this is marvellous. How do you have the confidence in your machine to do that?
Well, there's 2 things counting against him at the moment, of course, aren't there? Number 1 is he's got this intermittent power steering issue. Number 2 is he's not done very much driving at night in these kind of conditions. So all of that said and done, with a driver of the quality of Peter Cox ahead of him, he should be pretty proud of himself. I'm sure he won't feel that way at the end of this race, but he should be pretty proud of himself. He's doing enough to keep that 3rd place in that overall podium, and let's not forget the class win, in good hands here.
The battle between 2nd and 3rd in G57, that's Colin White and James Winslow, under 50 seconds now, but Colin doing what he needs to do and circulating around about the 2-minute mark.
Mike Simpson, meanwhile, has another lap that I think is at least the 6th in a row in the 153. No, it's actually, sorry, it's 5 in a row in the 153s, and the 2 before that were in the 154s.
Back down to Joe Bradley, who quite understandably is around the Century Motorsport pit area, and the face is getting longer there, Joe?
Yes, indeed. Reports from the cockpit of the 51 Century Motorsport Ginetta, the power steering is getting worse, and now we've got an oil pressure warning light just to handle these walls. So it is really fingers and toes crossed here, and just sort of nursing it home, I would think.
Thank you, Joe. He's got a minute and 12 seconds between himself and Colin White. That's a minute and 12 seconds. in 8 minutes that he's got to hold on to for an overall podium and the class win for Century.
Two cars we're seeing on the video stream at the moment it's not for position. That is Peter Cox with James Winslow running 5th just behind him. James in the 156s now. Mike Simpson again in the 153s.
Across the line goes the 51. That is Danny down towards turn 1. Now this has been the scene of some of his woes. Is it the part of the track that's the issue? Is it just that electrical power steering problem? He goes through turn number 1. The Scottish driver driving with his brother through turns 1 and 2. Looked a little bit tentative there, didn't he? But his lap times are still good when he gets a lap that's uninterrupted by technical woes. He's still clearly very quick. Down a couple of gears there. 2 pops from the exhaust on the right-hand side as he goes through turn 6 and into 7 now, and back on the throttle. And he'd be looking, feeling, anticipating, telltale sign. Any issues from that power steering? The oil warning light now is there's nothing he can do about that. He'll be watching he'll have the digital dash up on the oil pressure and temperature, and he'll be keeping an eye on that to see that it doesn't deteriorate. But he has not got the time to come in and stop, Graham, so he can't manage that.
No, he's got to go for the line at this stage. It's 6 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Realistically, that's a maximum of 4 laps out on track. Did I just see the light board on the side flicker?
Well, that would suggest electrical problems, and those spikes that we were hearing the guys in the pit lane talk about earlier for one of the other Ginettas that had problems, messing with the voltage that's going to the electrical power steering. That's got to be a bit worrying as a driver. It's the inconsistency. If you don't have it, then you don't have it, and you decide to drive the car or not drive the car. But if it's coming or going, particularly on a downforce car like this, that's the worst of all worlds.
Absolutely right. The gap.
That was a good lap. That was a good lap from Mackay.
59.4.
59.4.
Yeah. So he's basically you're just going for broke. He's going for the end of this race at the pace he feels he can run safely at this stage. Leading the race though, it's the number 12 Graf Ligier in the hands of Franck Bertelli. 79 laps in the books. He's about to come through to complete 80 laps. He has 63 seconds on the second placed car. That's now the second Ligier P3, the Cox Racing number 48, in the hands of the man whose team bears name, Peter Cox. Danny Mackay, after that double issue out on circuit, now running with a oil pressure warning light on, we understand, in the 51 Ginetta, runs 3rd, leads the Ginetta class. He's 13 seconds behind the Peter Cox Ligier, and then Colin White in the second of the Ginettas, the number 55 CWS car, the Colin White car. He runs 4th, is a little way back, around a minute back from the 51 car. James Winslow has got the gap under 44 seconds now for these to the second position in the G57 class, but will at the moment be on the podium in class for G57.
Graham, I'm going to ask you in a moment. I'm going to ask Joe and Nick as well. We're into the last 4 minutes before anything else happens, as through goes Franck Bertelli in the graph. Nick Damon, first of all, your thoughts about, first of all, the whole concept of these 3-hour races and the mixed nature of this prototype category that we've seen here over the last couple of days.
I think it's been a resounding success for the cars that have raced. I think there's been a little bit more attrition than you'd have wanted, but in a way, that's 50% of a test race. You're also testing the cars. They're racing here in difficult conditions with the heat. It's warm, there's a lot of reflected heat, and the long pit stops with the heat soak. But let me just say one more thing. The star of the show for me has been Peter Cox. A man who I have a fantastic relationship with normally.
And there is the power steering issue that we've been waiting for. Now, can he haul that car back onto the track? He can. That's Danny Mackay coming through the very fast final corner. And right in the middle of the corner, he couldn't get it turned. Now, he did exactly the right thing. He didn't panic. He hauled it back. But my goodness me, that must have... Well, I bet he knows the colour of adrenaline now. Sorry, Nick.
Fine.
Let's go back to what you were saying about Peter Cox.
The start of the show, Peter Cox, he's been incredibly quick. He's gone as fast in a P3 car, which theoretically should be 4 to 5 seconds a lap slower than the others have been. I think possibly the one thing about to say is that I think that Lawrence Thomas is going to be exceptionally pleased about how this has worked, because the one problem they've got, and I think the one issue they have had to work out, is the power steering. They also need to have a little bit of look at how they're going to use the Hankook tyres more. Apart from that, absolutely brilliant.
Joe Bradley, you've been in the pit lane as well. That's where you are now. I'm sure you're starting to think about getting towards the Graf Racing team. Looks like they're going to take 2 wins in the P3 category. What will you take out of what you've seen here in this 9 hours of racing, or 8 hours and 57 minutes that we've had so far?
Fantastic. These cars look great. Fantastic sound. The competition has been phenomenal. Here we are coming up to the finish of our third 3-hour event, and it's not over. You know, everything's down to the flag. And you know, for us guys and for the crowd, it's attrition is good, but it's not good for anyone else. And it's not good for business. And if you are selling drives and you can't promise, you know, good amount of time in the seat because of niggly little problems, all right, I may be overly critiquing what's happening, because these cars are brand new, some of them just out the box. So teething troubles that we can get over, and I'm sure I am so looking forward to the 4-round series. We start in Manicourt in April for a 12-hour race through, and I'll leave my judgment whether I prefer 3-hour races or a straight 12-hour race.
It's a good point.
But these cars are phenomenal. Love it.
Thanks, Joe. The variety, Graham, tick in the box. Midweek racing, we're not going to get that in the series, but midweek racing's been a big hit, clearly, globally. Everyone who's tuning into the stream, whether it's the video or the audio stream. But this is the start of something. I feel we're in on the ground floor, that we've seen something as Frank Martelli comes down to complete what will be his penultimate lap and start his last lap. I do feel we're seeing the start of something quite important here.
Absolutely agree with everything that Nick said, and absolutely fundamentally agree with that point. And it's a tricky point that Joe made as well, which is there will be some of those teams, some of the CN guys, the Geneta guys as well. Last lap board being shown, by the way, that they will want to go back and sort some of these niggly issues out. The other thing I'm sure we're going to see when we get to the 12-hour races is now we've got the nightmares of all the publicity about P3s. Will they race it? Will they not? Now that's done, we will see more of the P3 cars into the 12-hour races. That means that the other guys know they've got to up their game, and that I think is a good thing as well. Will we see P2 cars in this series? I think we will. Here comes the number 12.
Yeah, if you weren't with us earlier on, the headline news is that 2016 and prior LMP2 cars welcomed into this series, and a 12-hour race here, January the 7th, 2018, as a prelude and the first part of what I'm calling the Dubai Endurance Festival with Creventic and Hankook. It will be the Sunday before the week of the 24 hours for the GTs and the touring cars. And it's going to be 2 wins for Frank Martelli, for Edward Lewis Browner, and for Eric Trullier. Graf Racing, as Graham rightly says, they have got a couple of wins under their belt. They've done a very good job indeed, and between them and the AUH guys, who've also got a couple of a win and a couple of podiums in their radical class, it will be very tight if we're counting this on points. But ultimately 2 overall victories for the P3 cars, and he's got 2 corners to go now. The 25-year-old Frenchman brings it home. We might be seeing the start of a new endurance racing superstar's career as well here with Frank Martelli. Time has elapsed. The checkered flag is in hand, and it's 2 races out of 3 for Graf Racing, as 9 hours of the 3x3 Hankook prototype challenge is completed.
Coming through to complete the race as well is the one remaining CN car, and well, more than a golf clap to the number 81 AUH Motorsports Radical.
Across the line now for the 81 car. They played the tactical here.
I apologise, the EDEX Sport car's got back out.
Oh, well done.
So the EDEX Sport car will be on the podium as well.
Waiting for, there's Colin White, he's just gone through.
4th position for Colin, and 2nd in the G57 class.
Is as good as my French. Well done, congratulations, Eric. Well done, Trebia. I'll do teammate Eric. Let's have a word with you guys. Congratulations, Edward. Edward, Congratulations again. 2 races out of 3. That's pretty good going.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very pleased. It was a good team, good mechanics, good everything. I basically came here without any expectation. It's the first time I'm driving the car, so I thought, let's go to Dubai, enjoy the sun, and do a little racing. But I didn't expect to win, so I'm extremely happy. Extremely happy.
Great drives from you, Eric. But Frank Martelli in the car at the moment, that young man is something. He's got something a little bit special, we think.
Well, he's extremely fast, and he became faster during the whole weekend. I think it's only the 3rd time he's in the car, so a good talent to watch out for.
Frank, say something in French to our French viewers. In français.
C'était une course formidable, c'était vraiment super, et on a passé un super moment avec toute cette équipe, et on a partagé un super moment avec ces pilotes. On a vraiment passé un excellent moment. Merci.
Merci.
And
Thanks,
what
guys.
Eric said there was, it was a great moment, a fabulous race. He's enjoyed all of it, and it's been great being with the team as well. 2 races out of 3, can't complain at that. Let's go through the class winners. The Century Motorsport, Danny McKay doing a fantastic job at the end. How he managed to keep that car on the track, I have no idea. He does take 3rd overall and wins the G57 class, actually by the vagaries of how things happened there, by a lap from Colin White, just depending, that was because of where the leader was. Colin managed to hold on to a 51-second lead over Jamie Winslow for Simpson Motorsport and the 52 car. Those were 1st, 2nd, and James Winslow 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the G57 category.
And the Edex Sport car that came back into the race at the death, that said its fastest lap of the race on the last lap, a 2 minutes .035 dead.
Not quick enough to get near the 81 AUH Motorsport Radical, who takes another, never off the podium, and a win in the last of the 3 races. Let's confirm the results then. Graph by 55 seconds with Peter Cox chasing them down. Those are the first 2 in P3. Then the hordes of G57 P2s headed by an ailing Century Motorsport, the 51 car. What a drive by Danny Mackay at the end there. Colin White Motorsports car, the CWS Ginetta, holding on to 2nd in class. And look further down to 8th and 9th, the 2 CN cars inside the top 10, and a 3rd podium and a win for the AUH Motorsports Radical SR3 RSX, smallest engine car in the field, just 5 laps off the leaders. Everyone else behind them had problems and were well off the pace, but 3 great 3-hour races for the opening shots of the Hankook 24-hour Proto Series for 2017. 4 12-hour races to come, and we'll be bringing you coverage of those throughout the season. We'll give you our full details of which races we are at and what the coverage will be a little later on in the weekend. But by everybody, including you, the audience, both on radio and the streaming TV, seem to be proclaiming this as a success. Can't always promise it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday racing, but to me, the concept of mixed category prototype class racing, absolutely superb. We'll be back with qualifying for the TCR Middle East. That's tomorrow at 20 minutes to 4 GMT. It'll be Johnny Palmer who'll take you through that, from myself, John Hindorf, the team, Graham, Nick, Joe, as well as Phil, Ulf, and the rest of the TV team, and the responsible adult, omnipotent as ever. Thank you for joining us here. Don't forget, it's Midweek Motorsport, the usual time, 8 o'clock tonight. That's midnight here in Dubai. Not sure what state we'll be in by then. Tired, I would think. Thank you for being with us. The end of another great race day at the Dubai Autodrome. Bye-bye.